Magsiupo na po ang ating mga panauhin. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Good morning. The hearing of the Senate Committee on Public Services is now called to order. We will actually have a schedule because we have a few items to tackle today. We will begin with the Third Telco topic, and then we will go with the franchises. So if you are not with the Third Telco, I suggest that you can probably relax first unless you'd like to witness also this first hearing that we have. So to begin, it's been said that one's age can be measured in the devices one has used. For example, millennials are accustomed to Netflix, Spotify, and other streaming services, and they've probably never heard of VHS or rented a DVD. And it goes without saying, kapag naranasan mong gumamit ng Nintendo at nagkaroon ka ng karanasan na may party line, most likely hindi na tayo bata. Yet, we often fail to appreciate the sheer personal effort of those who made these things happen. If you have a postpaid smartphone in your pocket, thank the reformers of the 1990s, 2000, and today who made it possible to surpass the satellite phones, pocket bells, and Blackberries of the past. They made it happen through a combination of technological and business innovation, market competition, political will, and good intentions. If these reformers did not succeed, then maybe only a few businessmen would be using bulky car phones, and 98% of the country would not have a landline, while the rest would still be waiting for a dial tone. The present push for a third telecommunications provider will also require a similar push. The Third Telco is the next big milestone, and it will require a motley crew of policymakers, businessmen, and stakeholders to make that dream happen. Led, of course, by the DICT and the NTC, the agencies who will have to act not only with urgency but also transparency and impartiality. It's important to have the speed, coverage, financial capability, and service checked, and the winning bidder should actually pass through a very rigorous test. But remember, our countrymen are already clamoring for better service, faster service, and more competition para bumaba ang presyo ng subscription ng mga telco. Ibig sabihin, mas bababa ang babayaran natin sa ating mga cellphone at sana mas mabilis rin ang magiging connection natin sa internet at wala na masyadong mga drop calls. Yan ang dahilan siguro kung bakit mismo na ang Pangulo ang nagsabi na dapat magkaroon tayo ng third player. At hindi lang siguro dapat third player, dapat may fourth, may fifth, may sixth, di ba? More who are interested, the more interest we have in this, the better. Now, that is the first part of today's proceedings. Will serve as an exploratory hearing of the Third Telco and related issues without impinging on the jurisdiction of the DITC and the NTC. This hearing will serve as a public forum for those involved to inform the texting public about the latest developments in this pressing national issue. For the second part of our proceedings, we will briefly but substantially discuss 3 House bills which seek to grant or review various broadcast and electricity franchises. For the broadcast franchises, we have on one hand House Bill number 8157, which seeks to renew the franchise granted to Tirad Pass Radio TV Broadcasting Network Incorporated. And then we also have House Bill number 8155, which seeks to renew the franchise of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines. We will also tackle one application for an electricity franchise. This is House Bill number 8302, which seeks to grant a franchise to the Monte Oro Resources and Energy Incorporated, or MORE, to establish a power distribution system in Iloilo City. We also invited Panay Electric Company to provide us with a fair perspective on the issue. For the purpose of impartiality, we will tackle these franchises in their order of transmittal from the House of Representatives. This committee would like to be assured of the capacity of the applicants to deliver not only their primary mandate, but also to provide employment opportunities in their area of operation. As a background, it has been the policy of this committee to insert in all franchise bills a provision which requires for them to hire locals in their base of operation. This committee believes that a franchise bears a social function to contribute to the common good by generating employment in their local communities. In these difficult times in which prices continue to rise, ang paglikha ng maraming trabaho ay isang malaking tulong para sa bayan. Trabahong totoo at tunay para sa ating mga kababayan. With that said, may I request the resource persons to introduce themselves and a few ground rules. We would like to cover all these topics, and we would like to give you a chance to speak. At least one representative from a group, if there are several of you in the group. Please keep your statements as short as possible, to the point, because you'll also be more effective that way. If you have an opening statement and it is highly important that you deliver it, I will give you the chance to, but I will also keep it short because we have secretaries here and chairpersons from different government agencies that also have to do their work today. So, thank you for your presence this morning. I would like to ask first the ones from the telco, the telco group, to please introduce yourselves. Let's begin.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
I would like to acknowledge, I'd like to acknowledge first the presence of my colleague, the hardworking Senator Risa Ontiveros. Always bashed, but never threatened. Well, it seems like it. And also Congressman Singson, also our counterpart from the House. Thank you for your presence, sir. So let's begin again, I guess, with, let's begin with the Secretary of the DICT, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Eliseo Enrio Jr., Acting Secretary of DICT.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. Attorney Cordoba from the NTC.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Ariel Tobayan from Third Telco.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Attorney Rudolph Larbal from KBP. Good morning, Madam Chair. Tato Garcia from PTNT.
Good morning, Your Honors. I am Attorney Renato Lee, Counsel for PTNT.
Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Tony Barcelona from the Department of Energy.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Engineer Pierre Tito Galia of democracy.net.ph.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Aristoteles Elvina of Converge.
Good morning, Your Honor. Attorney Bernas from Converge.
Good morning, Your Honor. Attorney Aldrich Lee of Now Telecom.
Good morning, Your Honor. I am Neg Juliano Tamano. I'm the National Chairperson of the Federation of International Cable TV and Telecommunication Association of the Philippines.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm Efren Ariata Jr. From Sky Cable.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm Anne-Kathleen Gatdula, Securities Council 1 from Securities and Exchange Commission.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Your Honor. I am Attorney Darwin Soto from SEC. Good morning, Madam Chair. I am Attorney Rivera from NEA.
Your Honor, I'm Attorney Grego Falsa from ERC, but we will be entering our appearance in the later bill, Your Honor. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Heidi Venecia Barroso from ERC.
Good morning, nurse. I am Councilor Joshua Alim from Iloilo City, representing the consumers po.
Good morning, Your Honors. I'm Attorney Clara Del Nava, member of the City Council, Iloilo City, the Chairman Committee on Public Utilities. Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. Father Francis Lucas from the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, representing the organization.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm Jane Havillana, consumer from Iloilo City.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm Narzalina Lim from the Iloilo Economic Development Foundation.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm Roel Castro, the President of Monteoro Electric and Power Corporation.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm Attorney Benny Tam, Corporate Secretary of More Electric.
Good morning, Your Honors. I'm Richard Morno from Tiradpas Radio TV Broadcasting Network.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm Bienvenido Ibe, Program Director of DCTP Radio Tiradpas sa Candon.
Good morning, Your Honor. I'm Conrado Mongente from Tiradpas Corporation.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Your Honors. Parla Grama from the Philippine Competition Commission.
Good morning, Madam Chair. John Forbes, American Chamber of Commerce, representing the Joint Foreign Chambers in the Philippines.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Attorney Roy Ibay for Smart Communications.
Maraming salamat sa inyong pagdalo ngayong umaga. I'd like to acknowledge, of course, the presence of the Vice Chair of the Committee on Public Services, Senator Cheese Escudero. We will begin, I believe, with the presentation of the NTC. If you have one, Chairperson Cordova.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, sir. Naka-queue naman. Habang hinihintay natin, siguro magsitayuan muna kayo para manumpa. Like Secretary to please administer the oath. Please, everybody na, including the ones for franchises later on.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this proceeding? Thank you. Madam Chair, for the record, all those who took their oath answered in the affirmative.
Okay, please take your seats. Let's begin now with the presentation of Chairperson Cordova.
Your Honors, can Secretary Rio present his opening statement first? If that is okay with that, Chair.
Of course, by all means. Secretary?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Can we have our PowerPoint presentation, please? The Honorable Chairperson of the Committee on Public Service, Senator Grace Poe, Senator Francis Cordero, Senator Risa Ontiveros, Congressman Singson, all the members of the Committee on Public Service, fellow government workers, and to all stakeholders now present, good morning. First of all, I would like to thank the committee for inviting the ICT and NTC in this hearing. We welcome this opportunity to explain to a wider audience this important directive of the President, the entry of the third player, or what we formally call the new major player in the public telecommunications market. Past administration have endeavored the entry of a third player in order to improve competition in the telecommunications sector. But all attempts and effort were prevented even in their infancy. The latest of this attempt, as we all know, is the purported Telstra tie-up with a Filipino company, San Miguel Corporation, whose telco subsidiaries with assigned frequencies were sold to the two incumbent players. However, this time, in this administration is going to be different. In fact, we are exactly 17 days away to name the provisional new major player. For those who are not able to follow this development, allow me to narrate and explain the succeeding slides. It all started on December 2017, when President Rodrigo Roa Duterte gave us an unequivocal directive to improve the telecommunication services in the country by inviting a third player to compete with incumbent players. This directive, he said, is a matter of national interest and for the benefit of the public. DICT and NTC immediately created their respective technical working groups. The DICT and NTC TWGs had constantly met since January of this year to develop the memorandum circular that contains the terms of reference on the entry of the NMP. Commissioner Cordova will present later to the Honorable Committee the contents of that MC. The President, by virtue of Administrative Order 11, series of 2018, created the Oversight Committee. It was tasked to assist NTC in the development of the NC. It is chaired by yours truly, the Department of Finance. Secretary of the Department of Finance is the Vice Chair, with the Executive Secretary and the National Security Advisor as members. The committee have been integral part in giving inputs and directions to the selection process. One of these is the decision to adopt the highest committed level of service, or the X clause, as the mode of selecting the new major player. I just want to further explain this mode of selection. On contrary to the claim of others, X clause is not a beauty contest. It is a selection process that requires no judges, no discretion at all on anybody's part. And in fact, Madam Chair, you could say it is a computer who will select the new major player based on the inputs that the contenders themselves will give the selection committee. The parameters of the X clause are easily measurable and monitored in a commitment period of 5 years. And the details of this will be discussed by Commissioner Cordova. In developing the selection process and other process in the MC, we have consulted various government agencies which comprise the following: the Philippine Competition Commission, the SEC, Insurance Commission, NEDA, and the PPP Center, to ensure that the whole process is at par with international standards. We have also sought the assistance of the International Telecommunication Union, or the ITU, the United Nations body on ICT and telecommunication, and of course ICT and telecommunication concern groups provided valuable inputs and comments. Most of them are here this morning. In promoting transparency and hosting all efforts in coming up with the MC, the ICT and NTC conducted 3 public consultations since January 24, February 27, July 6, and a public hearing on August 23. Attendees comprise of the local and foreign telecommunication companies, representatives from different embassies, investors, consumer groups, and other stakeholders. After all inputs were gathered in said public consultation and hearings, and after thoroughly reviewing the multitude of position papers submitted on August 21, on September 21, 2018, the NTC published the final, final Memorandum Circular number 0909-2018, and the rules and regulations on the selection process in various newspapers of general circulation. The MC became effective on October 6, 2018. Invitation to bid was published by NTC on 7 October 2018, and the selection documents was issued on 08 October 2018. On that day, Madam Chair, 5 telcos or contenders applied for the bid documents, paying 1 million pesos non-refundable for these bidding documents. To ensure the possible participants, stakeholders, and the public are aware of the contents of the MC, the ICT and NTC conducted an information campaign on 2 October 2018, 4 days before the effectivity of the MC. In this event, potential bidders were able to ask clarificatory questions on the MC. On 15 October, NTC had concluded the pre-selection information session. In this event, NTC answered queries and contents of the MC and the instruction to proponents, or ITP. NTC also conducted training on the Form A of MC. Form A is the one that it is a computer-generated form where all data of the contenders, Excel form, will be inputted, and the highest committed level of service will be immediately known when the bidders submitted their bid on 10 o'clock a.m. November 7. The selection process that the Duterte administration is conducting has already attracted 8 contenders. As of October 19, we are expecting more, but out of these 8, 3 of them are big foreign telecommunication operators, one of which is even bigger than Globe and Smart combined, who have vast experience in nationwide telecommunication operation. We are on track in fulfilling President Duterte's desired timeline, which is to have an NMP by November of this year. In fact, we are 17 days away in fulfilling it. But because of the act of one contender, we are trying our best to answer all the queries that was brought to the court so that this deadline will not be derailed. Just as to provide a perspective on the issue of the Honorable Committee now, it has brought us to court, claims that security and fee in the MC are onerous, confiscatory, and potentially extortionary. Hence, they would want the president to choose the new major player and not the NTC. But this,
Secretary, didn't the courts decide already that it will not, it didn't side with now,
they
right?
decided, Your Honor, that the temporary restraining order is denied, but the injunction will still continue.
Okay.
The hearing of the injunction.
So there's no TRO, so you can continue with your process.
Yes, Your
Okay,
Honor.
go ahead, please.
But I must emphasize that only this one contender brought out all this issue, and the other contenders are in fact have not brought anything of what they are claiming. Provision on security and fees are already present in the earlier drafts of the TOR. Insertion of said provisions are consistent to the rationale of bidding and procurement process and are even lower than those required by RA 9184 or the Government Reform Act. Securities and fees are not money-making scheme, but were inserted to ensure that the government will be able to attract participants while ensuring that the winner will be able to withstand intensive competition against the entrenched incumbent telco. And lastly, Your Honor, the timeline indicated in this slide will be intact. And on November 07, we will have a provisional new major player barring any decision from the court. But before I end, I just want to remind everybody that the entry of the new major player was directed by the President himself as a way to improve telecommunication services of the country. At the end of the day, it is for the benefit of all of us. Hence, we appeal everyone to make this initiative of our President a success. Thank you for your attention, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Just a few things before we continue with the NTC presentation. Since you mentioned about fees, okay, number one, who again is in the selection committee? It would be the NTC, the DICT, who else?
The terms of reference, Your Honor, defines who are going to be the members of the selection.
Okay, just so there's accountability and transparency. Who are they?
Commissioner, yes, sir.
Attorney
Yes, sir.
Cordova, please answer.
Thank you for the question, Your Honor. The President issued Administrative Order number 11, which formed the Oversight Committee that helped the NTC in crafting and assisted the NTC in crafting the terms of reference. This is composed by the DICT Secretary as the Chair, the DOF Secretary as Vice Chair. The members are the Office of the Executive Secretary and the National Security Advisor as member also.
So,
yes, sir.
how many of you will decide, basically based on the bids?
Your Honor, based on the Republic Act 7925, it would only be the NTC that would do the selection, because that is under the power
So
of
it's
the
the NTC's board?
Your Honor, what we did was there's a selection committee formed under the Office of the Commissioner of the NTC, and then
And then who are these members?
the head of the legal department and other officials of the NTC, Your Honor.
Okay, so the function now of this oversight committee that was formed will only be recommendatory. You have no say on the decisions. It will just be purely the NTC. So who are these?
The Administrative Order 11, Your Honor, just require the Oversight Committee to help NTC in coming up with its selection process. And that's what we did. And Your Honor, the NTC, the selection process of NTC that was approved by the Oversight Committee, mainly, as I have said before, there is no discretion at all to any person in the selection committee.
How come? Because there are actual terms of reference that they have to comply with?
No, no, Your Honor. The highest committed level of service, which will be the basis of the selection, will all come from the contenders themselves, and they will have to input it in a Form A that we call through the computer, through an Excel program, and there is nothing that anybody in the selection committee or outside the contender's office who can change or manipulate the data that they will input in their own.
So if it's inputted and then analyzed by a program, this will be witnessed by somebody also from the oversight as well as the NTC, correct?
Yes, Your Honor. In fact, the program has been analyzed by all the stakeholders, the consumer groups, and the contenders themselves, and there are no complaints, even from now.
Okay. I would like to ask now, what are the total fees required? If you are interested, let's say, to bid, and then is there a bond that needs to be submitted?
Yes, yes, Your Honor. If a company or a participant would like to buy the selection documents, it is 1 million pesos, Your Honor.
Okay,
yes.
And
then there's the participation security. This refers to in 9184, it's called the bidding security. Bid security, it's a 0.5% of the minimum capital expenditure or operational expenditure. So that amounts to around 700 million, Your Honor. But it is, you don't have to pay it in cash. It can be through an irrevocable letter of credit or through a bank guarantee. But it can only be touched if you violate some provisions stated in the MC itself, Your Honor.
okay, so meaning it's refundable if they don't.
Actually, Your Honor, we don't have it. They just give us a bank guarantee or a irrevocable letter of credit. It's, for example, if, for example, they submit a falsified document, then if we find out that it's falsified, it's not true, then we can go against the irrevocable letter of credit. Yes, only if they have violations such as those.
Okay.
The third would be the performance security. Your Honors, in the highest committed level of service, the participant would give its bid based on 3 parameters. The first would be the coverage, internet speed, and capital expenditure and operational expenditure. Okay. Then this bid is on a 5-year period, which is called the commitment period. Every year, they will be audited on 2 parameters. If they comply with their bid on coverage, if for example po, sinabi nila that we will cover this much number of areas, if they do not, or if they do not reach the speed that they committed, then the government can go against their performance security. Ano po ito? What will happen is that there will be independent auditors who would do the audit on a yearly basis if they reach those amounts. If they don't, then we go against the performance security, just like in any other bid like 9184 or the other BOT law and other laws. It's ano po, 10% of the remaining cumulative CAPEX, OPEX during the commitment period. For example, Your Honors, for the first year, ay hindi po niya natupad yun pong pangako niya, then we go against the performance security. Ibig po sabihin, nag-default na po siya and hindi po siya tumupad sa kanyang pangako. Kung nagtupad po siya sa first year, sa second year, then it's the CAPEX, it's based on the remaining 10% of the CAPEX, OPEX for the second year onwards. So, yung po natutupad mo every year ay natatanggal na po yun.
So ito yung sa 700 million?
No, Your Honor. That would depend, the amount would depend on your bid on capital expenditure and operational expenditure.
Okay.
And then ano po, another fee is the appeal fee. If you question the decision of the selection committee, papunta po sa INBAC, then you have to pay a 10 million appeal fee. This is also based on Republic Act 9184, kung saan po ay to prevent frivolous appeals or delay yung tactics, dapat po ay seryoso ka, you should pay for the appeal.
Otherwise, you're automatically disqualified.
Yes,
okay.
yes. Your Honor, we can submit to the honorable committee. We made we made a table kung saan po nakalagay yung sa selection process, kung magkano, tapos yun po sa Republic Act 9184, and then yung pong PPP BOT law, and yung NEDA joint venture guidelines.
That would be
Makikita
much
po ninyo ito
appreciated. Thank you. If you can
Yes, Your Honor.
furnish the members of the committee a copy now, the committee secretary, please. Actually, I have a quick question also, and this is I'm quite curious. It's good to have the impartiality or the objectiveness maybe of a program to be able to analyze compliance. On the other hand, there's also another aspect that we are concerned about, especially if we have foreign interests and investors. It's good to have the investment here, but we are also concerned about national security. That's why I'm sure you made Secretary Lorenzana a member of this oversight committee. So tell me, how is the computer able to determine that?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you for that question. We are really concerned with whatever national security the Third Telco could have. We have already past experience on this during the past administration, Your Honor, when in fact Globe overhauled its whole network nationwide, and Huawei was the winner of their bid, no? And that time, 2 years after that, we had this West Philippine Sea situation, no? And therefore, that more or less alerted the National Security Advisor, then Cesar Garcia, to call Globe and ask for what will be their assurance that the Huawei network will not be used against national security. And Globe was able to come up with an answer that is to come up with a cybersecurity audit that they will do themselves. In fact, I think they contracted an Israeli firm to do this for them. And the report of this cybersecurity audit will also, the government will be given a copy of this. This is what we are going to do to whoever wins in the new major player, Your Honor. We are very, very concerned on the national security, cybersecurity, because we are now actually experiencing so many cyber attacks.
So, okay, you are concerned about it, and rightly so, but how are you going to ensure that whoever will win it has actually complied with that? You have only until November 7, if I'm not mistaken, and you have all of these interested parties. Did you do a pre-determination of their qualification as
yes, Your Honor. In the terms of reference itself, there is a provision there that whoever will win must assure the government of the Philippines that it will not be a national security threat. No. So that assurance, and that assurance will come with some actionable demonstration of their network, Your Honor.
Okay. This question is for Attorney Cordova. Sir, part of the requirement of operating a telecommunications company is that you should have a franchise. Okay. Now, the franchise from Congress is given. It's actually a privilege. But looking at the list of the ones that are interested, not all of them have franchises, or in fact, I don't see anyone. Oh, well, I think one has for sure, I know. But if they have a franchise, if they don't have a franchise and they're the majority shareholder, they own it, they still have to go through Congress to get the franchise. That's my understanding, right? I mean, I'm sure NTC can give a provisional permit, and if they win this, I don't see any reason why Congress will not grant them the franchise, but that's still a step that they need to comply with. Am I correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Actually, Madam Chair, in our definition of a participant, the participant should have a congressional franchise, Madam Chair. They cannot participate in the proceedings, in the process, if they don't have a congressional franchise.
So, you're telling me all of those companies, that isa-isahin nga natin? Kasi parang, Telenor, do they have a franchise? China Telecom, do they have a franchise? They will partner up with somebody who has a franchise, is what you're saying?
Yes, Your Honor. They will partner up with a local Filipino franchise holder.
But then, if they haven't partnered up, how would you know that they have a franchise?
Your Honor, they would have to form a group where there is a congressional franchise holder in their group. Because under the law, Your Honor, the NTC cannot give a license or any frequencies to an entity that doesn't have a telco congressional franchise.
Madam Chair, if you may. The way I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Cordova, 8 companies bought bid documents. In fact, some of those who bought bid documents aren't even known. They were bought through their representatives. So right now, we don't know exactly who will participate in the bid. But to participate in the bid, they have to partner with an entity that has an existing congressional franchise as required by law under the Deregulation of Telecommunications Act. Is that right?
You're correct, Your Honor.
So the fact that they bought documents, hindi pa required na magpakita sila ng prangkisa. Pag nag-bid na sila at walang prangkisa, yung kapartner nila, hindi kasama sa consortium, may prangkisa, then they would be disqualified. Is that right?
Yes, you're correct, Your Honor.
Do you have a presentation, sir? Or have we discussed already what you were about to present?
I can present, Your Honor, the details for you to appreciate the
okay, please, go
salient
ahead.
points of the memorandum circular.
Yes.
May we proceed, Your Honors? We are now going to present some of the salient points of Memorandum Circular 99-2018 issued by the on the selection process for a new major player in the Philippine telecommunications market. Next slide, please. This was already discussed by Secretary Rio. The President in December 2017 gave a directive to the NTC and to the DICT to finish this by the first quarter of 2018. However, he gave us another deadline, which is November of this year. Next slide, please. There are offices, Your Honors, that help draft the MC. It is not solely the NTC, but with the help of so many government offices. The Oversight Committee members, based on Administrative Order 11, the DICT as chair, DOF as vice chair, OES as member, and NSA as member. Next slide. We also got help from the Department of Justice, Office of the Solicitor General, the Insurance Commission, the SEC, PPP Center, NEDA, and the Philippine Competition Commission. Next slide, please. Now, we also ask for help from other experts that help us draft the MC. We ask for help from the International Telecoms Union through Dr. Ismail Shah, ITU area representative and head of ITU Office for Southeast Asia, and Timor-Leste, and ITU expert, Mr. Scott Meinheim. Actually, Your Honors, the fee for the ITU consultant was partly paid for by the International Telecoms Union. We also got help for the computations and formulas from Ateneo Math Department Chair Felix Muga, and for the legal provisions from Ateneo Law School Dean Cesar Villanueva. Now, we also asked for public participation in drafting the memorandum circular. We had 3 public consultations by the DICT, as discussed by Secretary Rio earlier, 1 public hearing by the NTC, 1 public information campaign by the DICT, and 1 pre-selection information session by the NTC. Next slide. Now, to give you an overview, this would be the flow of our presentation on the MC po, ano? First item will be the qualifications, second would be the criteria, third would be the what will the new major player get, fourth, what are the obligations of the new major player, fifth, annual audit of commitments, sixth, sanctions for breach of commitments, and seventh, timeline. Okay. Now let's go to the participants' qualifications. Your honors, as mentioned earlier and as discussed earlier, these are the ones who may participate in the selection process. A congressional franchise holder, it should be a telco franchise, national in scope, and should cover all services. 2, a congressional franchise holder covered by a bidding agreement with committed local or foreign investors. Ito po yung binanggit ni Senator Chis Escudero earlier. It's like a group of investors, but there should be a franchise holder. The franchise holder should be a sole entity declared to be the NMP. NMP po is new major player. And the recipient of all the CPs of the license and permits, and of course, sila din po ang sisingilin sa obligations. Yung po, congressional franchise holder. Okay. Next slide. Participants' qualifications. Legal qualifications. Holder of a congressional franchise is not a related party as defined by SEC Memorandum Circular Number 19, Series of 2016, to any dominant telecommunications player and has no outstanding liabilities or uncontested obligations to the NTC as of October 1, 2018. Okay. Financial capability po, it has to have a paid capital of at least 10 billion pesos, or if we're referring to the group, which is a consortium, the aggregate paid capital of its members should at least be 10 billion pesos. Next slide. Technical capability, experience in provisioning, delivery, and operations of telecommunication services for the last 10 years on a national scale. Now, if you're a group or a consortium, it is covered by a bidding agreement. One of its members, hindi po naman kailangan lahat, shall have experience in provisioning, delivery, and operations of telecommunication services for the last 10 years on a national scale. Now, let us go to...
Teka muna, sir.
Yes, sure.
National scale sa Pilipinas lang. Paano kung may national scale abroad naman? Pwede rin.
Actually, Your Honor, if it refers to letter A, congressional franchise holder, then national operations in the Philippines. But if it's a letter B, with it has other investors, then it can present one of its investors that has 10 years experience in other jurisdictions,
Okay,
Your Honor.
thank you for the clarification.
Yes,
sir.
sir.
That's good.
Just on that point,
Yes, sir.
let's be frank, Lil. Walang domestic Filipino company na may experience sa national telecom except for Globe and Smart. So, lahat ng mga bidder na may domestic franchise that's Filipino-owned would need a foreign partner na nakagawa na niyan sa ibang bansa. Di ba?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Now we will proceed to the number 2 selection criteria. Next slide, please. Okay. Yung pong unang criteria ay yung pong national population coverage, Your Honors. This refers to the service coverage of the participants' network committed to be established in terms of specified barangays and its corresponding populations stated as a percentage of national population of the Philippines, excluding any coverage provided by dominant telecommunication players under a national roaming agreement or similar agreement. The population per barangay shall be based on the August 2015 official census conducted by the Philippine Statistics Authority. Your Honor, ito po yung binabanggit ni Secretary Rio earlier. We inputted this into a database, and yun pong sasali yung participant, mamimili po siya ng mga barangays na kanyang lalagyan po ng coverage. Yun po yung kanyang parang roll-out plan doon sa mga barangays na yun. And then, itatali po yan ng Excel file or ng computer at lalabas po kung anong percentage ang commitment po niya per year for the commitment period for the first 5 years. Yes.
Just to clarify, Lil, ito yung hindi pa covered ng existing.
Actually, no, Your Honor. They can cover any barangays that they wish to cover.
Ano yung excluding any coverage provided by dominant telecommunication players? What do you mean by that?
Your Honor, kasi po, the NTC would be issuing a memorandum circular on national roaming. Ibig po sabihin ay habang for first 2 to 3 years of the operations of the new major player, ay pwede po sila mag-roam with Globe and Smart. Kasi po, siyempre, nagsisimula po pa lang sila mag-roll out. So, mayroon po sila mga areas for the first 3 to 5 years na hindi pa nila maaabot. So, yung pong coverage na yun ay papatak po yun sa National Roaming Agreement. Because that is provided by Globe or Smart, Your Honors.
My understanding is one of the reasons why we're encouraging the entry of a third telco players to cover areas that aren't being covered by the two dominant players. Ito yung parang, kumbaga sa kuryente, missionary route. So, if a bidder presents more missionary routes outside of the current coverage of the two dominant telco players, would that earn them more points in your Excel formula?
Actually, Your Honor, we do not differentiate between a covered area or area that has not yet been covered because we want competition, Your Honor. So, yung pong missionary areas are hindi po binibigyan ng premium yan, Your Honor.
Bahala na sila doon.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Next slide, please. Ito po naman yung weight given to the national population coverage, 40%. Ito po yung minimum and maximum po niya na coverage for the first 5 years of the population, and bids below the minimum shall not be accepted. The participant will not be disqualified. Will be disqualified. Ang computation po niyan ay ganito. For every 1% of national population coverage over the minimum national population coverage up to the maximum per each year, the participant will receive 1 point per annum. So, ano po yan? Yun po yung formula computation. Yes. Okay, the next slide, please. Ito po yung minimum average broadband speed to be measured in, ito po yung second criteria, Your Honors. To be measured in megabits per second and means the committed minimum national average broadband speed applicable to both fixed and mobile broadband services, which is available at least 80% of the time. The weight given to this is 25%. Minimum maximum average broadband speed is 5 Mbps to 55 Mbps. Bids of less than 5 Mbps average broadband speed shall not be accepted. Ang computation po niya is for every whole 2 Mbps minimum average broadband speed over 5 up to 55 Mbps, a participant will receive 1 point per annum. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, ito naman po yung third criteria, yung pong annual capital expenditure, operational expenditure. The weight given is 35%. Minimum and maximum for CapEx, OpEx are these amounts po, ano? 40 to 140B for the first year, and so on. Bids below the minimum shall not be accepted. The computation is for every 10 billion of cumulative CapEx and OpEx over the minimum CapEx and OpEx for each year, a participant will receive 3.5 points per annum. Any blank or zero or invalid entry shall be non-compliant. Ngayon po, dun po sa pag-audit on a yearly basis, ay hindi po kasama ito sa iyo audit. Ang iyo audit lang po ay yung first two, which is the coverage and speed. Okay. The weight given to the computations per year ay ito po. For year 1, it's 100%. Year 2, 140%, and so on. Ang dahilan po nito is we are giving premium to the first 3 years because we want them to be operational and to be used by the people and to affect speed and coverage right away. Now, if, for example po, ay tataasan nila yung kanilang mga bids over the maximums, nothing shall limit and restrict a participant from submitting entries beyond maximum values, but no additional points shall accrue to the participant in these cases. It will be used lang po in deciding cases of ties based on the Memorandum Circular 7.4C6. I will read it later po. Now, ano po ang makukuha ng NMP if they are declared as the new major player? Next slide, please. Just to backtrack po, also as mentioned by Secretary Rio earlier, we have no discretion on the part of the NTC sa pag-judge po nito because it is purely based on the what they input on the Excel file on the program that they are given. Kung ano po ang lumabas doon, ay yun po ang masusunod. Wala na pong discretion or judgment on the part of the NTC or any member of the Oversight Committee. Okay. Okay, ang ibibigay po namin, pagka po nanalo po ng isang company or consortium bilang new major player, is a license for 15 years or kung mas maiksi po ang franchise, yun pong life ng franchise niya. If, for example, franchise holder is 5 taon na lang po ang natitira, we will only give them a license for 5 years. But if it is more than 15, if it's 15 or above, we'll give a 15-year license po. And then, Your Honors, we'll also give the frequencies required. These are all the available frequencies. And we stated that in preparing and submitting its bid, the participant shall make its commitments and provide for the terms and conditions of its bid based on being assigned the above listed covered radio frequencies. Meron po kasing contingent radio frequency. This is in litigation in the Supreme Court right now. Sinabi po namin that if, for example, the NTC wins in this case, ang mangyayari po ay this frequency will be assigned to the new major player when the time happens. So, ano po, this is contingent naman po. Yes, Your Honor.
Senator Risa is recognized.
Salamat, Madam Chair. Sorry to interrupt, Attorney Cordova, pero yung nag-iisang tanong ko, which is actually pertinent for the period after Congress may file a bill and or decide upon this third major telco, has to do with frequency. So maitanong ko na rin ngayon. It's a question both for NTC and DICT. And it's related to a bill that I filed, an act providing for the allocation and management of the radio frequency spectrum. Malaman lang po yung opinion ninyo about this. What do the DICT and the NCT think about the regular reallocation or refarming of portions of the radio frequency spectrum through competitive bidding or auction? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that question, Madam Chair, Your Honor. Yes, actually, the real problem that we have now is that Globe and Smart have more or less acquired so many of the spectrum, leaving less than 1/3 to the new major player. No? So the new major player can operate initially with the present frequencies that will be awarded to it, but in the long run, it may need additional frequencies. And this is where, Your Honor, we are going to come up with policies, the ICT will come up with policies for the equitable distribution, redistribution of the spectrum, especially through frequency refarming, which are best practices in the other countries. Also, Your Honor, there is now in Congress a bill in coming up with also the same purpose in equitably redistributing our frequencies. I think you have some more to say.
We agree, Your Honor, with the policy that will be issued by the DICT to the NTC, and we will follow yung pong equitable distribution of frequencies in the in the future, and also based on the law that will be passed by Congress and it's pending here in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. We will participate in the deliberations, Your Honor, and we are willing to be your resource persons for those bills, Your Honors.
At yung best practices modes ng redistribution or reallocation, kasama ba doon yung competitive bidding or auction? Tulad ng sa ibang mga bansa and which has earned windfalls for those other countries, even in our region.
Yes, Your Honor. We have never done in this country an auction. So Globe and Smart were able to get, and other telcos for that matter, were able to get their frequencies awarded to them by the government at no upfront cost. So that is why we more or less said that the Third Telco, who is supposed to compete with the incumbent telco giants at that, Globe and Smart, who never bought their frequencies, and in fact, the Third Telco will only get the frequencies that are left over by the two telcos. Why should the Third Telco buy or will be forced to buy this frequency through auction? So we said, no auction for the Third Telco, but once we have leveled the playing field, then we can go into auction on new frequencies like the 5G. And that, Honor, is part of our policies that we're going to make. So ito po yung kinuha namin, the frequencies that are needed now by the Third Telco are the same frequencies that Globe and Smart never bought, or they were not subjected to an auction.
No, this is my question. So the government gave them those frequencies, and you're saying that there will be a redistribution, an equitable redistribution of those frequencies? And when is that? How long has the government give, or what is the time frame that they can hold on to these frequencies? Because you cannot just arbitrarily take it away from them to redistribute. So what is your agreement, let's say with Globe and Smart?
Yes, Your Honor. As usual, before we go into a policy, we have to have a consultation and public hearing with the stakeholders.
No, sir. I know, but is there any contract between the government and these two telecommunications companies on how long they can hold on to that spectrum?
As of now, Your Honor, there is none.
Okay, so so it's open-ended.
Yes, Your Honor, it's open-ended. But because we have been issuing out frequencies through an administrative procedure. And to take back the frequency needs a quasi-judicial procedure. That makes it a little complicated, no? But we can do it. We are thinking of a policy that can get back the frequencies on an administrative procedure, and that is where we have to have a consultation with all the telcos. If frequencies are not being efficiently utilized, this can be subject to a higher spectrum users fee, so that the holder will be forced to give it back.
Madam Chair, if I
Senator
may,
Cheese.
with the permission of Senator Risa, tama po yun, hindi binayaran ng dalawang major player yung frequency at bandwidth na nakuha nila. Wala silang binayad sa gobyerno. Unfortunately, ang binayaran nila, yung mga franchise holders na private na nabigyan na ng frequency na NTC na hindi naman nila ginamit o nagamit. So ang kumita rito, pribadong entity at hindi ang gobyerno dun sa frequency na nabigay sa kanila. Would that be correct, Secretary Rio?
Yes, Your Honor. Our laws does not prevent
yes.
a telco to be sold to another telco.
Yes, but, and this is my point, sir, isn't there a provision on non-use for 2 years in all the franchises? In all the franchises approved by Congress, there is a provision on non-use for 2 years, in which case either the franchise or in your case, either the bandwidth or the spectrum can be taken back by government or by the state for that matter.
I can't remember any provision, Your Honor, but based on Republic Act 7925, it's non-use and non-payment of the spectrum users fees.
So, pag nagbayad pero hindi ginamit, okay lang.
Parang ganun po, Your Honor.
So, pag nagbayad, at mura lang yan, di ba? Attorney ko, di ba? Mura bayad sa gobyerno, di ba? Per year, magkano?
Actually, Your Honor, if we compare it to the income, for example, of the telcos, then we can say that it's relatively not so expensive.
If we compare it to the amount at which they sold it to the two major players, barya talaga yung nakuha ng gobyerno, di ba? Would that be correct?
Yes, Your Honor. That is why in our policy, we are going to put this into consideration. We can monitor frequencies that are not being efficiently utilized or that are not even utilized at all. We can measure that, and these frequencies, we can increase the SUF. That is an administrative function that we can do, so that they will really be forced to return it to us. That is one of the plans we have, Your Honor. But we have to consult with the telcos really on this.
Lil, forgive us for interrupting your presentation, but just on this point, you said, sir, you will be issuing policies. Now, I'm not saying that this is being rushed, but shouldn't the policies be in place first before we conduct any bidding of sorts so that we get as wide a possible of participation from the best and the brightest in the world? Meaning to say, this is the direction I'm headed towards in relation to the question of Senator Riza. Roughly, Smart owns about 50%, correct me if I'm wrong, of the frequency and bandwidth available for telcos. About 50, roughly. Or more.
Yes, sir.
Smart PLDT, Globe owns something like 30%. And what you will be awarding is about 20%, which doesn't even include 5G. Right?
Approximately about that much, Your Honor.
Approximately. So, how will the third telco player be competitive if Smart has that much? Kumbaga kung highway yan, 10 lanes ang Smart eh. Ito binibigay nyo rito sa new telco player, 3 lanes, 4 lanes. Si Globe, 6 lanes. Diba? So, when you talked about reallocating the frequencies, does that mean that you will seek an equilibrium between all three, whereby they will have 10 lanes each? Para nga naman pantay at match. At talagang may competition. Would that be correct, sir?
That would be correct, Your Honor. However, in a timeline, the third telco will need about 2 years to really roll out its mobile infrastructure where they will need a frequency. No? On the first 2 years, they will be more or less rolling out fixed wireless. And this is where we need fixed wireless because 14% of our fixed establishment have no connection. Ito yung mga fiber to the home. So these are, by the third year, then maybe our policies will kick in. And in fact, maybe even the law that the Congress will also be effective during that time. So it is in the timeline, sir. That's why I said, itong frequencies na i-award namin are enough really for a startup of from 3 to 5 years.
Agree, sir, but they will never be competitive enough with the two existing major telcos unless they are granted or given additional frequencies and bandwidth. Would that be correct?
That is true, Your Honor. That's why we are going to have in that time frame of maybe before 5 years that they will have the frequencies that they will need, especially in the 5G frequencies, which will be the one that will be used.
But sir, in 4 or 5 years, you won't be there anymore, or probably not, most likely. So, my question is, why can you not establish the policy already, or commit to establishing a policy that at some point in the allocation of frequencies, the third telco player will get roughly the same bandwidth and frequency as the other two who are here right now? Will that be in your policy, sir?
It is, Your Honor. It is, Your Honor. In fact, when we tried to attract the third telco contenders, we said that in 5 years we will have, in 3 years' time, we will have an equitable distribution of the frequencies, either through policies made by the department or through law that will be coming from the Congress.
Sir, I'll go direct to the point. Every 3 years or every so often, new frequencies are allocated to the Philippines. Yun naman yung ma-allocate nyo uli. Di ba? Sa ngayon, wala na. Unless may mabiling frequency of franchise holder na may frequency in third telco player. Now, can I ask for a commitment from the DICT and the NTC that number one, such a policy will be issued not in the next 5 years because you won't be there anymore, sir, or probably your replacement might have a different idea already. For a memorandum circular regulation to be issued by either the NTC or the DICT through the NCT, that indeed there will be such an allocation of frequency emanating from government in order to equalize the available frequency and bandwidth to all the telco players and not give unfair or undue advantage to those who happen to arrive first or ventured into this business first in our country. Can we get that commitment from you, sir?
Yes, Your Honor. In fact, that commitment has been known by the contenders themselves.
But not 5 years, sir.
No, sir. 3 years.
Not even 3, sir. 3 years, wala na rin kayo dun eh. Ano nandun pa kayo?
Well, any frequencies we can recover from now until the easiest frequencies that we can recover, Your Honor, would be the 2G because pini-phase out na po yung 2G, no? Frequencies. And this one we can recover maybe in the next year. And this can now become available to the third player, not as a 2G, but for its, maybe even for its 5G utilization. So these are the frequencies that will be available, Your Honor, and we can commit on this maybe a year or two from now.
Yun po yung frequency na pwede nyong mabigay pa. Ang hinihiling ko po, yung policy, again, that should have been in place even before we have this bidding. But since hindi naaabot, can't it be sooner, like within the year, at the latest by January, so that at least whoever wins in this bidding would have enough courage to actually venture into this, knowing that at some point in time, the field will be, there will be a level playing field between him and the two other players.
Your Honor, we can assure the body that we will have initially, I mean, in fact, as early as before the end of the month, we will be having a public forum with all stakeholders on how to have an equitable use of frequency and have that policy implemented maybe by first quarter of next year. We can commit on that, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. Senator Risa?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Follow-up clarificatory question. Presuming na hindi ganun kabilis ang time frame tulad ng sinasabi ng Chair na by end of the year or within the first quarter of next year, what if a law is passed reallocating or refarming frequencies or providing for a system of reallocating and refarming pagkatapos nitong particular decision about the third major telco? If a law is passed, would it still need to undergo a quasi-judicial process?
Your Honor, if a law is passed, then that would really make our jobs much more easier. It will not be anymore a policy or a memorandum circular by a department or an agency, but the law of the land. And we are actually rooting for that law to be passed as soon as possible. But before that law, we have made our commitment, Your Honor, that by first quarter of next year, we will have a policy in place that will go towards the equitable, more equitable distribution of frequency.
Noted, Sec. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Senator Escudero is recognized again.
Madam Chair.
I think Lil is making a presentation. He's not yet finished.
But, Madam Chair.
Okay, Mr. Galia, please.
Very quickly lang, there's a slight inaccuracy in the statement of Secretary Rio. Even if there are only 20% available frequencies, a telco will be able to operate. This is merely a function of increasing the number of towers, cell sites, and antennas. Let me go to a real-world example. DTAC, a telco in Thailand, was issued something like only 15% or so of the available spectrum that was for mobile telecommunications. And yet, because of the rollout of 25,000 towers in 4 years, they were able to roll out 4,000 towers every year. They became a very competitive player against the dominant telecommunications companies in Thailand. So the solution for any third player who will come in with the limited spectrum that is going to be assigned is to build as many cellular towers even faster than the 200 or 300 towers a year that the incumbents have been building in the Philippines. But the bigger picture, as Senator Risa has correctly pointed out, is that the Philippines needs spectrum management reform law right now. Our law is still governing frequency allocations and spectrum management is Act number 3846, which is 1931. So the methodology for managing spectrum was not on spectrum itself, but rather the management of bricks and mortar radio stations. Now, this no longer applies. A radio station is in most everyone's pocket right now. The Bluetooth device that you use to open your car, by definition, is a radio station. Such being the case, our methods of spectrum management must be reformed so that we focus not on the device nor of the physical plant, but on spectrum itself. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Dalia. My question is this. Aside from building those cell towers, doesn't the NTC have a policy of allowing common users or shared using of certain towers? Is that mandated, or it is at the discretion of the company that builds it?
Presidential Advisor Ramon Jacinto has already come up with the guidelines on common towers policy, and we are discussing that now with the stakeholders, so that by the end of this year, we will have a common towers policy where common tower providers who are not telcos will be the one to put up so many thousands of towers that will be leased to the telcos, including the third telco player.
Kasi yung mga open access, yan ba yun? The open access
yes,
bill. So right now, let's say Globe and Smart cannot be compelled to take on the third telco to use the cell towers, correct?
They will not be compelled, Your Honor, but they can partner with a common tower.
That will pay them a fee.
Yes, Your Honor, but all common towers, whether sponsored by the telcos or independent in themselves, must be able to share their towers to any telco that would like to connect with them.
Sir, sorry, it sounds really good, but I don't think that's in the best interest of the telecommunications industry. Can you give us a copy of the proposal of Mr. Jacinto? The way I understand it, sir, that proposal basically says only a select few can build towers. That's not opening it up. That will make it even more of an oligopoly or a monopoly than actually opening it up. Right now, sir, anyone can build a tower. For as long as he gets LGU approval and Globe or Smart puts up a cell site there, or even if there's a cell site by Globe there and it's okay with them to put up a third telco site there, or their equipment there, it's okay. But the proposal, as I understand it, I've read about it in the papers, they want to establish a monopoly. And I don't even understand why DICT or NTC is even considering that. If at all, you should issue regulations on common use to lessen the garbage of the towers. That whoever puts up a tower, you should open it up to other telecommunications players at the same rate you're offering it to whoever engaged you in the first place. But to limit who can build the towers, and I think that's the direction that the proposal of Mr. Jacinto is directed towards, I don't think that's correct policy. Am I correct, sir, that that's the direction
No,
the
no, Your
proposal
Honor.
of Mr. Jacinto is headed
I
towards?
agree with you. It's not correct. It is just a proposal of RJ Jacinto, and we have not agreed to it. In fact, we are still pursuing a more acceptable way of coming up with a common tower policy. We will be talking with the telcos who are going to be the clientele of these common towers, not the government. It will be the telcos. So they must have a big say on how this common towers policy must go. And
what is the authority of Mr. Jacinto to push for this policy? Is he a member?
Your Honor, Madam Chair, Presidential Advisor Ramon Jacinto was able to get a memorandum circular from the Office of the President assigning him the oversight function of a common tower policy. He is not the one who is going to really approve it. It will be my department, Your Honor.
Okay. And right now you are not inclined to approve that, am I correct?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm not inclined to
The Chair would like to acknowledge the presence of our Majority Floor Leader, Senator Mig Zubiri.
If I may
Senator Escudero is recognized again.
So again, just to reiterate, sir, I don't think that's good policy. So can I get it straight from DICT and NTC that it will not pursue that particular proposal headed towards establishing either a monopoly or oligopoly with respect to the construction of towers, similar to an NGCP na sila lang? That is not correct policy. Are we on the same page on that, sir?
Yes, Your Honor, I assure you. In fact, Your Honor, we are now going into another mode. It would be a memorandum of agreement between the telcos and government on recognizing what common towers would be recognized by the MOA. And
if at all, sir, government can always mandate common use. Kaya again, para
Yes,
mabawasan yung
common
dami
use.
ng tower,
Yes,
bahala
Your
na
Honor.
sila, basta pareho yung rates.
Yes, Your Honor. In
And
fact,
whoever puts up a tower, it can be done freely, common use din. At kung magkano man yung sinisingil sa isa, yun din dapat yung singil sa kabila. Hindi
yes, Your
sapat
Honor,
at
that would
makapili.
be the idea that we have. And in fact, it will not be common rate, it will be a market force rate, Your Honor.
Actually, market force rate, sir, but again, it cannot be higher than what he's charging one. Otherwise, he will be in a position to dictate who will be the major player in that area, at least where his cell site is operating. So shouldn't it be common use offered to all at the same rates?
Yes,
Ngayon,
Your
kung
Honor.
gusto niyang taasan si Smart, taasan din niya si Globe. Hindi naman pwedeng mababa yung presyo kay Smart, mataas yung presyo sa Third Telco, mababa yung presyo sa Globe. Meaning,
It will
fair is
be
fair.
any common tower that will be offered for lease or rent must have the same rate, Your Honor.
Exactly. Thank you, sir.
Ms. Tamano, you have a comment on this.
Thank you very much. Matagal na ho namin pinupush yung toll regulatory bill hindi na umuusap. Pero saka na lang po namin babalikan yan. Balikan po natin yung spectrum. Alam po ninyo, ang karamihan ng mga nakikita ko rito ay nasa telecom industry. Kami po we are both broadcast and telecommunication because of our value-added services that we are not only offering cable TV but also cable internet, especially in the countryside. Kami po yung kalaban ngayon ng PLDT at Globe na nagdi-deliver ng cable internet na. So pag pumasok pa itong Third Telco, tatlo na silang kalaban namin. Now, binabasa ko po yung bill ni Senator Hontiveros. Palagay ko po kailangan pag-usapan at pag-aralan ninyo yung digital dividend. Kasi nga po, sa Japan at saka sa Australia, nung nagkaroon ng digital dividend, yung pong mga TV station na 6 megahertz, isang channel lang ang ibinalik nila doon sa TV station. The rest, binawi yun ng Japan at ng Korea at ginamit nila sa telecommunication. Ipapaliwanag po ng legal counsel ng TikTok kung paano po yung nagawa para po maibsan itong napakagastos na pagtatayo ng mga tower. Ito ho ay malaking bagay para madagdagan ng spectrum. Katulad ng Channel 2, Channel PTV4, Channel 5, Channel 7, Channel 9, Channel 13. Limang spectrum frequency ang malilibre niyan na magagamit sa telecommunication na katulad ng ginawa sa Japan at saka sa Australia. Papaliwanag ko niya kung maaari.
Siguro bago ipaliwanag niya kung maaari sana kayo po sa democracy.net,
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Galap, pero can we ask may I request our resource persons to please explain this in Filipino so that more can understand also that, okay, sir, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, with respect po, tama po si Ms. Tamano with regard yung sa tinatawag na digital dividend. Kasi paglipat po natin mula sa analog na technology na ginagamit natin ngayon, tapos gagamit tayo ng digital, kukunti na lang po ang kailangan nating spectrum kada channel. So, lilit lang po. For example, sa TV spectrum na ginagamit ngayon, maximum siguro po mga 24 channels na analog ang pwedeng gamitin. Pero ngayon, na digital ang gagamitin natin, maaring umabot po ng 1,200 channels ang yung buong spectrum para sa TV. Ito nga lang po ang slight disagreement po namin sa statement ni Ms. Tamano. Ang Channel 2, Channel 9, Channel 13, and so on po ay mga VHF or very high frequency na spectrum po. Ay hindi po sila appropriate para sa high-speed digital na wireless communications.
Sige, so meron ka ba bang komento? Sir, maikli lang po ha, kasi hindi pa tapos ang presentation ng ating chairperson ng NTC.
Yes, ma'am. Basically, sa isang channel po na analog system, 6 MHz po yung ginagamit niya bawat isang channel. Nag-ship na tayo sa digital television broadcasting. Pwede yung magkasya yung, let's say, 1 dosena o 2 dosena ng channel sa isang frequency. Sample po dyan yung mga digital TV, yung actually, black box, na may kita mo, isang frequency lang ginagamit nun, pero madami nagkakasya. So sa ibang bansa po, instead of the whole 6 MHz na analog na binigay sa kanila, kasi yun naman kailangan ng analog na technology, nung nag-ship sila sa digital, kahit let's say 1 MHz na lang yung binigay sa kanila, yung 5 MHz po, yun yung tinatawag na digital dividend, na babalik sa estado, tapos yung state, kung gobyerno natin, pwedeng siyang i-auction off, meron siyang revenues, pwede siyang magamit sa iba-ibang, let's say, telco. Yung binabanggit ko ni sir na hindi appropriate sa depende ho yun. Basta ang idea dito is that may free up yung frequencies dahil sa maganda po yung bill ni madam na ma-reallocate nga, pero kung talagang limited ko kasi talaga yung resource kung walang babawiin, kung ano yung existing ngayon na libre, yun lang din yun. So, ito sa digital dividend na pwede natin, ginawa naman sa ibang bansa, pwede natin pag-aralan yun, baka pwede natin ma-apply sa Pilipinas po.
Sige, hindi muna natin pupuntahan masyado yung mga technical na bagay na ganyan ha. Kasi yung ating re-resolbahin ngayon ay ang pagpasok ng Third Telco na kinakailangan ay mabigyan ng tamang serbisyo yung ating mga kababayan na hindi malulugi ang gobyerno, na talagang hindi makakabanta ito sa ating seguridad. So yun yung mga bagay muna na ating pagtutuunan ngayon ng pansin. Siguro si Chairperson Cordova, kung maaari po tapusin, please wrap up. So just skip the very technical parts of the presentation.
Sige po, maraming salamat po, Your Honor. Ano ko lang po yung mga important na parts based on your guidelines. Next slide, please. Yung po mga obligations ng NMP. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, yung pong kanyang bidding agreement, i-implement po niya, at yung pong performance security, as I had, yung pong discuss ko earlier. Yung pong, ito po yung basis ng yung kanyang commitments, dapat po ay matupad niya, kung hindi ang kanyang performance security ay mako-forfeit po ng gobyerno. Next slide, please. Ito po ay, well, as mentioned earlier, ito po ay pwedeng cash, manager's check, draft, etc. Next slide, please. Rollout plan, bibigay po kanyang rollout plan afterwards, and then yung po mga reports, and magkakaroon po ng audit every year for the first 5 years, as I have mentioned earlier. Next slide, please. Okay, yung pong annual audit of commitments, hindi ko na po daanan ng detalyado, but ang mangyayari po is magkakaroon po ng auditors na mag-audit every year, independent auditors at mag-audit every year doon sa kanilang commitment sa coverage and speed, at kapag sila po ay hindi nakatupad doon sa kanilang pangako, ang kanilang pong performance security will be forfeited in favor of government. Next slide, please. Sige, tuloy na. I already mentioned that. Okay, nilagay po namin sa MC yung pong way ng pag-audit, but it's quite technical, but ang general idea po is dapat po ay matupad nila yung kanilang mga commitment sa coverage and sa speed. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next. Next. Okay, ano po ang mangyayari kapag ka po hindi lang natupad ang kanilang mga pangako? So, ang mangyayari po ay failure of the NMP. Sandali lang po. Kapag hindi po nila natupad ang kanilang pangako, ay bigyan silang grace period. Pag hindi pa rin po nila ito natupad, ay magkakaroon po ng forfeiture ng kanilang performance security at yung kanilang pong franchise ay file ng warrant of proceedings at yun pong mga radio frequencies ay babawiin ng gobyerno pag hindi po lang natupad ang kanilang mga pangako. So, next slide. Ito po, Your Honors, ang ating timeline so far. Nagkaroon po kami ng public consultations for the first half of the year. Nagkaroon po ng public hearing noong August 23, 2018, at we published the final memorandum circular on September 21, 2018. It became effective on October 6, 2018, at nag-issue na po kami ng invitation to bid noon pong October 7, 2018. Tapos, ang selection documents were made available for purchase, and so far po ay 8 po ang mga kumpanya na bumili ng selection documents. We had the pre-selection information session or pre-bid conference noon po October 15. So, October 22 po on Monday would be the last day for submission of clarificatory questions. That's today po pala, sorry. Last day for response would be November 2. And base po sa utos ng Pangulo, ang submission and opening of the bids would be November 7, 2018. So, that would be early next month. That's all, Your Honors.
Okay, Chairman or Chairperson, ito yung tanong ko, kung sino nabibigyan ng frequency ng gobyerno? No, halimbawa, yung Globe and Smart, nabigyan yan. Bago nun, meron ibang nabigyan na naibenta na sa Globe at Smart. Pwede ba yon kung bibigyan ka ng frequency, sa'yo binigay ng gobyerno, hindi mo nga, sabi nga ninyo, hindi yan binili. Pwede ba ninyong ibenta sa iba yon?
Actually, Your Honors, ang nangyayari po kasi is they don't buy the frequencies. They buy the companies po na may hawak ng frequency. So, indirectly, they're able to do that, Your
So
Honors.
that's how it's done. But in this case, since you're having a third telco, if a company buys that, well, if a company assumes it and they win the bid, will that give them the right? Well, if they're bought by another company, as long as they maintain the 60-40 and as long as they maintain having the franchise, then they can continue. Am I correct?
Your Honor, tama po kayo, but in this case po, we made a prohibition dito po sa ating memorandum circular that they cannot sell to the dominant players po right now.
So just the dominant players,
Yes.
but other players that are not dominant in the market may be able to assume.
Yes, Your Honors, but dadaan po yun sa Philippine Competition Commission na po, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Senator Escudero is again recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Let me also acknowledge the presence of Senator Sherwin Gatchalian. Thank you, sir.
Just a few questions, Madam Chair, with the permission of our invited guests. Nabanggit po natin kanina, 8 bumili, mas marami sana, mas maganda, bakit hindi? Pero, in-schedule nyo na yung bidding na November 7, so ilang katanungan kaugnay nun? Una, sang-ayon po ba kayo na kung mabuksan itong telecommunications industry at hindi lamang limitado sa mga Pilipino, tulad ng pag-amin nyo rin kanina, na wala namang Filipino company na may experience sa national telecommunications. So admittedly, foreigner naman po talaga ang papasok dito eh. Ngayon may amendments sa may panukalang batas kaugnay sa pag-amienda ng Public Service Act na binubuksan sana ito. Dinideclassify ang telecommunications industry bilang hindi public service at ngayon pwede nang maging 100% foreign owned kung sakasakaling maaprubahan po yun. Pero sa ngayon, wala pa yun, di ba? Kaya ngayon, limitado tayo sa 60-40. 60% Pinoy na wala ng Pinoy na may experience ng telecom industry sa buong bansa o national telecom industry or business, 40% foreigner. Tama po yan? Pero malamang sa malamang tulad ng sa mining industry, magkakaroon sila ng kasunduan kung saan ang pagmamay-ari talaga o maglalabas talaga ng pera ay yung foreign partner. Tama po yan, Chairperson Cordova?
Your Honor, Based on the Gamboa case, yun pong question, yung pong ownership ng
PLDT.
foreign ownership sa PLDT, ang sabi lang po doon is dapat po yung Filipino side is voting. But insofar as the arrangements po nila, wala naman pong binanggit ang Supreme Court in that decision.
So, following the Gamboa case on the PLDT Corporation, di ba? Nagkaroon ng mga panukalang amyendahan ng Corporation Code. Para sa gayon ay maging bukas na rin sa ibang kumpanya at hindi lamang sa PLDT kung saan tungkol yung Gamboa case, yung posibilidad na yon. Gayon din, nag-issue ng regulasyon ng SEC, hindi po ba? Na pwede nang mangyari ngayon at gawin sa ibang kumpanya din. Would that be correct, Attorney Gordon?
You are correct, Your Honor. The SEC issued a memorandum kung paano po ito gagawin, and it was also upheld in the case of Roy, Your Honor.
So, in other words, in the case of both Gamboa and Roy, decided by the Supreme Court, basically ang sinasabi ito, yung 60-40 sharing mag-a-apply lamang sa common stock na voting. Yung preferred shares, pwedeng 100% pagmamay-ari ng foreign entity. Would that be correct?
Your Honor, yun lang pong voting ang hindi pwede because yun pong act of management is through the voting stocks, Your Honor.
Nandun ako. Pero may pagbabawal ba na sinabi ang Korte Suprema, ang SEC, o sa parte ng NTC kung sakasakali? Kung magkakaroon ng kasunduan, yung common stock na Filipino-owned at yung may-ari ng 80, 90, 100% na preferred stock na by proxy, ina-assign niya yung boto niya doon sa kanyang kapartner na foreigner. Nothing prevents them from doing that, right?
Based on the Supreme Court decision, Your Honors, wala po akong nabasang ganun
At
sa
sa punto de
Supreme Court
vista ng
decision.
NTC, illegal ba yun? Ginagawa sa mining companies yun, ha? Yun yung pag-circumvent nila nung sharing requirement in the Constitution. So, insofar as this third player is concerned, dahil nga hindi pa naman naamiyandahan yung Public Service Act, is that going to be frowned upon by the NTC? Or is that perfectly all right with the NTC, given that it's not illegal under existing law and in accordance with the Supreme Court decision?
Your Honors, the decisions of the Supreme Court forms part of the law of the land. So, we will follow the decision of the Supreme Court on that matter, Your Honors.
Na ang ibig sabihin, pwede nga mangyari at gawin yon.
Yes,
Tulad
Your
ng sa mining companies, kung saan ang typical na arrangement ay yung foreigner na 40% lang on paper ang pagmamayari niya ng common voting stock. Pwedeng siyang magpasa talaga doon sa kumpanya kung magkaroon ng side agreement o kasunduan sa pagitan ng Filipino partner niya at siya para mapatakbo yung kumpanya. At pangalawa, wala rin pumipigil sa kanila na magkaroon ng kasunduan na dahil siyang naglabas ng pera, marahil ipautang pa nga niya yung Filipino counterpart niya nung kinakailangan pera sa 60% niya. Pwede rin magkasundo, hindi ba? Na lahat ng kita plus sa premium, babayaran mo na yung foreigner na 40% ang pag-ari. Hanggang mabayaran siya, ganun muna yung arrangement. Ngayon, pagbayad na siya, edi 60-40 na ulit tayo. There's nothing illegal about that, right?
Based on the Supreme Court case, Your Honor, interpreting the Constitution, wala pong nabanggit na hindi pwede po yung binanggit ninyo.
And because the Supreme Court decision applied only to PLDT, dahil yun lang naman talaga yung kaso essentially when the SEC regulation came out, it now applies to all. Would that be correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Second question, sir. Napag-usapan na rin kanina on national domestic roaming. Yes, please.
Madam Chair. With the kindness of Senator Cheese, just a point. Though I would just like to encourage, Madam Chair, encourage the NTC and the DICT, though there are no existing laws that prohibit the subject of the question of Senator Cheese to you earlier, and though, as you pointed out, yung jurisprudence natin forms part of the law of the land, gayong paman, hanggat at habang hindi pa naaamyenda yung ating konstitusyon, yung section sa National Economy and Patrimony, yun pa rin ang saligang batas na ang tawag sa kanya. So I would encourage NTC and DICT na magsumikap pa rin manatiling tapat sa diwa ng konstitusyon habang hindi pa naman siya naaamyendahan. Dahil yun pa naman ang pinakamataas pa sa anumang batas at mataas pa sa, with all due respect to the High Court, sa anumang jurisprudence. Salamat po.
in relation to that, Senator Reese, actually, the main point I was driving at is the direction of Congress is towards declassifying telecommunications as a public service so that the Filipino ownership requirement found in the Constitution for public services will no longer apply. So, hindi naman nakalagay na ang telecom dapat 60-40 nakalagay, ang public services dapat 60-40, public utility 60-40. Pero pag diniclassify nga natin yun under the PSA, and that is the direction, pwede na ang 100%. Now, the reason why I'm pointing this out is, ang problema ko nga, nakatali yung kamay natin dahil wala namang Filipino company na may national experience sa pag-roll out ng telecom. Palaging foreigner yan eh. So, sila lang talaga naman ang makakagawa niyan. Wala pang Pilipino sa ngayon na makakagawa niyan. Kung buksan yun, mas maraming makaka-participate, mas maraming makakasali, mas may oportunidad tayo na makakuha ng magaling talaga at hindi yung sa gilid-gilid lang. That's actually the direction I was driving at in relation to the ownership requirement. Because admittedly, no Filipino can do this and can qualify with a 10-year experience provided for in your TOR. Is that correct, Chairperson Cordova?
So far po, Your Honors, we are...
Aside from the two?
Aside from the two, yes.
Now, on national domestic roaming, you said that you will be issuing regulations. When will the regulations be issued, sir?
Actually, Your Honor, nagkameron na po kami ng public hearing, I think, a few months ago, but medyo na-busy lang po kami sa pagtapos po ng terms of reference, so matapos po siguro namin, Your Honors, if papayagin nyo kami hanggang sa pinakamatagal na po yung January of next year.
Kabilang dapat dito sa memorandum circular na to yung interconnection sa existing telco players, di ba? Yung pag tumawag si Third Telco sa Smart o sa Globe user, ito lang yung mabayaran. Hindi sila pwedeng patawan ng mas mataas na parang hindi ka na pwede tumawag doon sa mas maraming may cellphone ngayon. Would that be correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Actually po, Your Honor, yung pong, nung pong binanggit ng Presidente po sa Presidente Duterte po sa kanyang State of the Nation address, yung pong interconnection ay na-issue po namin agad yung pagbagsak po ng interconnection rates for voice and for text messages, Your Honor. And I think isa na po tayo siguro sa pinakamababa ngayon sa region.
Now, on the national domestic roaming MC, when will this be issued again, sir? Within the year, first quarter, by January, when, sir?
Your Honor, pipilitin po namin matapos by January, Your Honor. Yung national roaming memorandum circular.
By January?
Yes, Your Honor.
Second, on the shared tower regulations, again, earlier, Secretary Rio said, ang direksyon nyo ay walang monopoly o oligopoly sa paggagawa ng tower, open pero ma-mandate ang common use, at papunta tayo sa direksyon na yung rates pareho niyang i-offer dapat sa lahat ng players. When will that regulation be issued, sir? Parang natatagalan po kasi ko sa 3 years. Baka naman...
Again, Your Honor, we will have the first, we are parang on work in progress po ito, but before the end of the year, we will have a common tower policy, Your Honor.
And third, on open access, I know this is the subject matter of legislation, but in the meantime, what regulations exist on open access?
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Open access is encouraged by NTC, but normally kasi in an environment like the Philippines, where you have two major telcos, one and the other will not allow the other to use the facility of one. And what happens is the smaller players are the ones using the facilities of the bigger players. So ito yung nangyayari as of now. Of course, in other countries there is an open access, but in other countries, most of these countries, ang meron hong investment ang gobyerno na napakalaki. That's the reason why they have the open access regulations in their jurisdictions.
Sir, you said encourages, not mandates. At kung may investment man ng gobyerno tulad ng Vietnam, halimbawa, halos sila nagpagawa ng mga tower, hindi ba? At tayo wala naman, hindi ba may tuturing na napakalaking investment ang pamahalaan dito sa dalawa at kung sakasakali sa papasok na third telco player? yung pagmamayari ng Estado sa frequency at bandwidth at spectrum na kanyang ibibigay, igagawad ng libre pa nga eh. Dahil kahit na anong tower nila, hanggat wala silang frequency, spectrum at bandwidth, aanhin naman po nila yung tower. So again, can that not be the basis for government to mandate it and not simply encourage it? Sir, at the end of the day, we want more players. We want competition to flourish so that the prices will come down. Di ba, yun naman ang objective, kaya gusto ng Pangulo to, di ba, na marating yung mga lugar na hindi nararating, magkaroon ng competition talaga para bumaba yung presyo at hindi yung sila-sila lang nag-uusap, sila-sila lang yung mayaman. Can it not be mandated instead of merely encouraged, sir?
Yes, Your Honor. There is a legislative measure being taken up. I think it has passed the House of Representatives already, the bill on open access. It would be better if it is mandated by law, Your Honor. It can be mandated by the committee, but subject to challenge. So it may be better if there is a law, and we are hoping that that law will be passed soon. Your
And
Honor.
you encourage the passage of that law?
We supported the law, the measure, Your Honor.
In the meantime, Attorney Cordova, can the NTC not issue as it has done in the past? Di ba, bago makapasa ng anumang batas, nauuna naman kayo eh. Is it not possible for the NTC to issue such an MC along these lines while we are awaiting that law, since you're endorsing the law anyway?
Yes, Your Honor. We will do that, Your Honor.
May we ask approximately when, sir?
Kung medyo kasi po ito mas malawak than the national roaming, then maybe for the first quarter of next year, Your Honor.
I ask these questions, sir, because you asked the third telco player to deliver on certain commitments. And if not, you can go against their bond, you can file a co-warrant of proceeding against the franchise, and you can take away the CPNC. On the reverse, hindi naman pwedeng one-way lang, dapat two-way. On the reverse, these commitments on the part of government should be delivered to in favor of whomsoever will win in your Excel formula. So can we have that, can we confirm that commitment that these regulations will be issued, among them at the latest would be the first quarter of next year?
Yes, Your Honors.
And if not, sir?
It will
Pwede
be
pa rin
issued,
tirahin yung bandong Third Telco. Paano po ang non-compliance niya dahil sa kakulangan ng regulasyon mula sa pamahalaan? Yun basically ang tinatanong ko eh.
Actually, Your Honor, as of now po kasi since wala pa po yun, ay hindi po natin ma-base yung kanilang commitments on that. So, part po ng memorandum circular na ating in-issue is that they should be aware of the regulatory environment and yung pong mag-due diligence sila sa Philippine setting, and their commitment should be based on that. Pero ito pong mga binanggit niyo ay gagawin din po namin para po makatulong sa
So,
kanila.
ibig niyo sabihin, dahil sinasabi niyo ngayon, Chairman, na gagawin ninyo yon, kung hindi niyo nagawa sa maayos na oras, halimbawa first quarter next year, eh, ibabalik niyo yung bond nila.
Hindi.
Hindi
Hindi po. Ano po? In the memorandum circular, Madam Chair, nakalagay po doon that their commitments are based on the prevailing situation po right now. Pero, of course, we will do our best to improve it. Pero yung po kanilang commitments is based on the...
So they will not, okay, so to
Yes.
clarify, obviously they will not get their bond,
Yes.
but then you also will endeavor
Yes.
to make sure that those, that particular, those provisions will be passed by the first quarter next year.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
One last point, Madam Chair. You're following a formula via an Excel file using presumably an algorithm. Now, marami ng matalino sa mundo, ang daling i-analyze yung algorithm. Paano kung lahat ng 8 bidder sinagad at minaximize yung pwede? How many possible permutations are there, and isn't it possible for a tie to ensue? Because again, it does not involve any human intervention or discretion, and as you said, even if they go beyond the range that you suggested, it won't be counted anymore. I'm not a mathematician, but is it possible na magkapare-pareho sila, i-maximize nila yung pwedeng magawa? At
Yes.
paano pag bola yung sinabi nila? Halimbawa, kaya naming i-roll out 80 billion agad. which we know is impossible given the current problems with getting permits with LGU, with getting the land, whether leased or bought. Paano pag gumawa sila ng pangako that's unrealistic, which the Excel file might not be able to recognize? How is that, sir?
Yes, Your Honor. The only way that they will have a tie when all of them will, or two, will maximize their points, no? So that's the only way, Your Honor, because kung hindi ho maximize, then there must be some hindi ho sila magtatay. And then ito po yung talagang unrealistic na ho, yung only purpose is to derail the whole thing, no? And of course, we are ready for that.
How will you know that, sir, if there's no human intervention? I mean,
no, sir. Yung kanilang proposal mismo, for example, sabi nila, on the first year, I'm going to have 50% of the country
covered.
Yes, covered. And that is, yun nga po, that is the maximum for the first year, 50%.
So what if all 8 said, first year, 50% kami? What if all of them said, 55 Mbps? Again, as you said earlier, any bid in excess of the range won't deserve any points.
Well, we
so
will...
what if sinagad nilang lahat?
May Pascual, Your Honor. Sige.
Your Honor, naisip na rin po namin na ganoon po ang pwedeng gawin. So, meron po kaming tie-breaking mechanism based on 7.4C6 of the Memorandum Circular. Nakalagay po dito, where 2 or more participants tie for the highest points, the following tie-breaking formula shall be observed. The highest value for each selection criteria in each year among the tie participants shall serve as the denominator against which all commitments shall be divided for the year. So yun po pinakamataas, siya po ang magiging denominator. The resulting value shall be multiplied with the weight of the respective criteria and the weight of the applicable year. The participant with the highest aggregate points for the entire commitment period shall be declared the NMP. And so on, ano po yun, in the event of another tie, after the application of the preceding paragraph, the participant with the highest score in the first 2 years, utilizing the same formula, in case there's still a tie, the participant with the highest score in the first 3 years, and so on po. So medyo, ano sir, medyo, Your Honor, medyo mabigat po at imposible na magkaroon po ng tie.
So sa permutation yung yan, kaya nang i-break anuman tie na pwedeng gawin kung pinag-aralan nila yung algorithm o permutation o formula na ginagamit nyo sa Excel nyo?
Yes, Your Honor.
Madam Chair, can we recognize baka mas magaling siya sa math?
Mr. Gala, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Unang-una po, mathematically impossible na magkaroon ng identical na results dun sa Form A unless pare-pareho po ang mga lugar na i-commit ng mga bidder. That's the only way po. The reason po kasi out of yung 42,000 barangays na dun sa Form A na kailangan i-fill out, hindi naman po pare-pareho yung number of population in those barangays. Therefore, kung hindi iba-iba kung saan sila naglagay ng committed area for year 1, iba po yung population coverage automatically na mangyari po dun sa year 1 ng isa.
Sir, it's a question of population eh. If you look at Globe and Smart, they're all in Metro Manila, they're all in Cebu, they're all in Bacolod. They're not in the far-flung municipalities where the population is low. So if I will be the third telco player, I know that too. And I will of course go with the highest density first. So most likely, tutugma ho ng konti yun. Kung hindi man, halos eksakto kasi yung alam ng isa, alam din ng iba. Kaya ang tinatanong ko kanina, diba, may missionary points ba? Pag naglagay ba sila ng site o ng signal sa area na wala ngayon, na hindi sinaserve ng dalawa, kasi yun naman ang habol natin sa third telco eh, na maservisyon din yung mga lugar na hindi sinaservisyon itong dalawa. They're playing cutthroat competition in the usual areas na maraming traffic. But not in areas na maliit yung traffic. So if I'm a knowledgeable third telco player bidder, I would also know where to put it.
Madam Chair, tama po si Senator. NCR consists of 12% ng buong population ng Pilipinas. Pero itong 12% po kaya pong kontrahin kung papasok sila sa, for example, sa Region 2, southern part ng Region 2, southern part ng Region 1, northern part ng Region 3, and so on. Kaya po mag-build nung equivalent na 12 million, which a lot of these places po, I must point out, are still missionary areas. One example would be, for example, Natividad in Pangasinan. May signal po sa poblasyon, pero paglampas nyo po ng about 3 kilometers, wala na pong signal. So, yun yung mga areas na, tulad po ng sinabi ni Senator Cheese, na pwedeng unahin, pwedeng ikunin doon mathematically yung panlaban doon sa competition ng 12 million kung NCR ang pupuntiryahin.
Kaibahan nga lang ho sa NCR, wala ng bundok. Sa probinsya, pag naglagay ka sa poblasyon, hindi mo mararating yung barangay 3 kilometers away dahil may bundok sa pagitan nila. Kailangan mo ng panibagong cell site. Buti sana kung patag lahat. Yung Natividad, malamang patag. Dahil isa sa rice granary natin yan. Pero sa karamihan ng mga lugar, mas maraming kapital ang kailangan mo para ma-cover mo. In municipalities with a population of, let's say, 10,000 or 20,000, economies of scale will catch up with them. And I don't think it's economically viable for them to actually do that. In fact, one of the things we're looking at on the common tower, sir, is, again, ayokong isa lang ang mag-invest eh. Kasi in a perfect world, let the LGU invest on the tower. Di ba? Kasi nasa interest niya na mag-signal yung lugar niya eh. So why won't the LGU engage in it when under the local government code, they can engage in a local economic enterprise and offer it for lease to any telco pair who might want to put up a cell tower there, cell tower there. Di ba? So sana mas malawak ngayon, mas maganda eh. Kahit sinong LGU gusto na may signal yung kanyang lugar, bakit ba hindi? So in that sense, I will trust your mathematical computation, sir, na imposibleng mag-match. But it was just a concern because there will be no human intervention. So if it's a machine, it's possible, however remote it may be, na magkakatay talaga eh. And by your analysis, Attorney Cordova, with your tiebreaker schemes, no chance na magkatay.
Medyo napaka-imposible, Your Honors. But just in case po, we will adopt, kunwari po pagkatas ng matapos sa dulot, meron pa rin ganon, we will adopt the 9184 provision.
And if it fails, meaning you went after the bond, you filed a co-warranto case, you took back your CPCN, we go through this process all over again after a year or two that the third telco player failed? Is that correct?
Pagka po nag-fail, yes, Your Honor. Ganun.
Back to square one tayo.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ang nais ko rin marinig kasi, yung dalawang major player ng mga telecommunications companies, yung concern nila sa mga narinig nila ngayon ng mga diskusyon natin. Pero siguro dun sa NTC, matanong ko, no, yung iba kasi dito, maaaring magagandang ilagay nila sa bid when it comes to certain numbers, how much their capital will be, etc. But track record is also important. Like, for example, I think one of them here has rolled out the cell service in Myanmar or other areas that are even not as modern or not as advanced as us, but they're quite successful there. Sabihin na natin, mas konti tao doon, pero mas remote din yung mga areas. How are you going to weigh that balance between the algorithm? Paano mo babalansin yun? Yung algorithm o yung kung ano yung pipiliin ng computer, no? At yung tunay na reputasyon ng isang kumpanya sa pamamagitan ng mga trabaho na napatunayan na nila sa ibang lugar. Paano ko ang biglang manalo dito dahil ang gaganda nga ng nilagay ay isang kumpanya na para talagang medyo kaduda-duda. Paano natin babalansin yon?
Yes, Your Honor. There are local companies, Your Honor, no? PTNT, now, and others that have already rolled out some infrastructure. Pinakamalawak yata is yung Converge, for example, if I may say so, has already about more than 7,000 kilometers of dark fiber, and PTNT, I think, has 16,000 or something. So ito yung pagpasok ko nila, paglagay ko sa computation nila, itong mga kumpanya ito will have big coverage on the first year, on the second year, and even on the third year, no? Because mayroon na silang ginawa po, no? Compared to others na talagang wala pa talaga silang infrastruktura. So dito ho, that's why we are saying na almost impossible ho na magkakaroon ng tie, no? Kasi ho, there are now local companies who are participating na may roll out na ho sila na they can put in their bidding document. Ito, naka-roll out na kami sa mga barangay na ito, and therefore they will be accredited to those present rollout that they have. Kahit na wala silang 10 years experience, at least sa last 5 or 6 years, nakapag-roll out na ho sila. No? So ito'y malaking bagay sa kanila that they can put in their bidding documents that they are actually now covering these barangays in their first year, second year, and third year. So yun know ang no?
That will be recognized by the algorithm?
Yes, Your Honor. Actually, lalagay lang po nila na we have these barangays already. Mayroon na kaming point of presence in these barangays.
Who is raising their hand from Now Telecom ba?
PTNT po, Madam
Okay,
Chair.
PTNT first, very short, and then Now Telco.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. First, we would like to point out that PTNT has a lot of facilities nationwide, including building sites and towers, and we are willing to put that into the common tower policy. So that's to help the entire entity. Second is we don't see any problem with the points in the tie breaking. Definitely, there will be a tie at the first round, as pointed out by Senator Escudero. The tie breaking formula will not allow a third tie to happen. Lastly, I'd just like to point out that we have requested NTC to review and study the fact that PTNT, being a corporation that has started since 1962, more than 50 years of operations, that has been providing the first nationwide data transmission network in the country. Remember, in the provinces, we have also our switch point-to-point, VODEX, we have public calling offices, and we still have our operations nationwide, not just broadband today. So the company definitely, given its experience, not just in providing broadband, but also mobile and radio with our relay stations. We know the country very well. We know where to put up the facilities necessary, and definitely we can roll out within the time frame as provided by government. Thank you.
Now Telco, please.
My name is Jose Bernas. I represent Converge, not Now, Your Honor.
Okay, go ahead, Converge.
So if I may, what I'd like to do is to address the questions of Senators Escudero and Senator Poe in an integrated manner. To Senator Escudero's point about a tie, I think that is exactly what's going to happen. Every bidder will make sure that they obtain the maximum points. It would be ridiculous not to. So from a gaming point of view, that's what's going to happen. But Chairperson Cordova has described a tiebreaker mechanism. In simplified way, the tie-breaking mechanism will look at the commitments that are in excess of the maximum levels for which the points will be awarded to. So for example, on the threshold for capital expense and operating expenses, it's 240 billion. In excess of that, there will be no more points. But when a bidder commits to spend more than that, it is the excess that will be considered in the tiebreaker. So Mr. Garcia is correct. On the first round, there will be a tie. On the second round is when the tiebreaker comes in. What we believe, and I think maybe that's also what Mr. Garcia is trying to say, and to the point raised by Senator Poe, there is no qualitative evaluation that will intervene into the selection process. A simple mathematical evaluation of the excess of those points, whether that's reasonable or not, or appropriate for what we need is the question. For example, in our view, and we've validated it with other parties, the CapEx and OpEx threshold of 240 billion is very much in excess of what is actually going to be needed. So if a bidder, let's say, proposes to commit 300 billion, that is actually a lot more money that's going to be required. So to use that as a basis for breaking a tie may or may not be reasonable. And to the point of, and perhaps a qualitative evaluation, let's say of Filipino consortium members who have already demonstrated the ability to deliver, whether it's 5 years or 10 years, as Secretary Rio has said, is probably more appropriate. Unfortunately, that qualitative assessment is not provided for in the mathematical determination. Finally, to the point raised by Senator Escudero about performance. The rules require a performance bond, which is quite high. It's a bit unusual, but it probably isn't going to be deterrent. What is a deterrent probably is the lack of a calibration on that performance bond. So for example, if the winning bidder has performed 90% of his commitments, it's not clear how much of that bond will be charged, as opposed to, let's say, a 50% performance out of the 100% performance. And I would like to integrate that with the question of Senator Poe about a qualitative assessment, and I think Senator Ontiveros also raised that point. My view from a public policy perspective is that the government policy would want to bias its, would want to skew its policy towards ensuring that the service is provided, and not simply to use a mathematical formula that might result in what Senator Escudero forecast, in the situation where a bidder wins simply because he promises the moon and then doesn't deliver, and then 2 years later we're back to looking for a third telco.
Sir, if I may pursue that point, that's where under 9184 there's such a thing as post-qual. So if PTNT says we have so many towers, if bidder excess, we have rolled out in these barangays, so they input that in the form, which you will subject to your Excel formula. Is there a way or process by which you will validate their claims? Even their ability to roll out, let's say, 50 billion in the first year. Is there a way to actually validate those claims under the formula? Because they're filling out the form.
Yes, Your Honor. In fact, the ITU, our ITU expert said that yes, they can try to come up with the highest, but take note, they have to be punished. They will be punished if they cannot perform what they committed. Parang ganito lang po yan eh. Parang sinasabi nila sa atin, sa gobyerno at sa taong bayan, ako, pwede akong gumawa ng maraming towers dito sa first year, at itong mga aking, lalagyan ko ito ng 50 megabits, no? So malamang, kinuha nila, at parang ito rin dapat ang aming punteriya, na sige, pwede mo sabihin yan, pero how much money will you put where your mouth is? So dito ho, yung kanilang ilalagay ho rito, yung kanilang CAPEX and OPEX, na pwede rin nila taasan. So parang ang kinapa nila, gagawin ko ito, but I am confident that I can perform this because kung hindi ko ma-perform to, ito yung perang pwede makuha ng gobyerno, kunin nyo rin yung frequency na in-award nyo sa amin at lahat ng mga licenses.
So, sir, tinatayaan nyo na sapat ng panakot yon. Sorry, ang pinakamalapit na salita sa deterrent panakot eh. Sapat ng panakot yun. I-confiscate namin yung band yung napakalaki.
Opo.
I won't use the word confiscatory but prohibitive.
Opo.
Kapag hindi mo tinupad
That is the opinion of the RITO experts. Na wala kong foreign partner who will really try to derail this process by coming up with commitment na hindi naman nila matupad. Remember, Your Honor.
Sir, forgive me, sir. Intindido ko yung mathematical na tataasan niya yung bid niya eh. Pero paano nga yung claim? Let's say yung claim ng PTNT na yan. Yung ability nila to roll out, mas mabilis kasi may tower na kaming existing. How will the algorithm be able to gauge that kung totoo man yun o hindi? Paano pag nalaman nyo, after the fact, hindi naman pala totoo yung sinabi nito eh? Paano?
Well, yun nga ho, they will have to suffer the consequences.
So, sa ban pa rin?
Yes, opo. In fact, that is the only way na, kasi kung nagkaroon tayo ng beauty contest marami ng promiso, pero wala ho tayong sapat na penalty na kung talagang nanloloko lang sila or what, ay talaga ho, malaki ang mawawala sa kanila. That is why we have this performance ban that is actually based on the law, no?
So doon na nga lang po nakasalala yun. Yun ay pinakapanakot natin sa kanila. Magsinungaling na kayo hanggang gusto nyo. Kung kayo nagsinungaling at pinaasa nyo kami, titirahin namin yung ban nyo.
Yung inyong performance ban amin, yung frequency nyo may balik sa amin, lahat ng lisensya na babalik nyo sa amin, hahanap kami ng bagong new player po. At kayo ay manloloko lang.
Huling punto na lang po. Pwedeng nanloko naman sila para masalya lang nila eh. Kasi wala naman may prohibition ba to against them selling it?
Yes, sir. They could not, they can sell their company or whatever infrastructure they have already, but they cannot, they have to give us back yung frequency at yung performance bandila.
Paano yan? Let's say may nagbid, a joint venture, local company and foreign company, sila nanalo. Hindi nila kinaya. Ang balak talaga nila mulat-mula, if i-flip lang nila, bebenta nila at pagkakakitaan nila, bawal po nilang gawin yan?
Bawal ho nila ibenta ho yung kanilang kumpanya with the frequencies, licenses, CPCN na in-award sa kanila because of these terms of reference. So yun ho ang kanila. They will really lose.
Bawal po nilang ibenta yung kumpanya na kasama yung frequency at ano pa. Pero yung kumpanya pwede nilang ibenta.
I'm sorry?
Pero yung kumpanya pwede nilang ibenta.
Pwede po. Pwede nilang ibenta at kung anumang assets mayroon ang kumpanya. Pero we can do that while already looking for another new major player.
Sir, sorry.
Can you clarify, Chairman?
I-clarify ko lang po ng konti, Your Honors. They cannot sell to the dominant players po, Your Honors.
No, they cannot sell, but they can sell it to someone else.
They can, Your Honor.
Hindi, kaya, asan yung panakot?
Pero
akala ko ba may panakot tayo, di ba, na, hoy, pag yung pangako nyo sobrang laki, yari yung ban nyo, kaya naman pala nila ipasa o ibenta eh.
Pero, Your Honor, yung po kasing bibili ng kumpanya ay subject to the same panakot po. So, yung pong papasok nun, dapat ay kaya niyang pangatawanan at parindigan ang pangako na ibinigay po nung nauna. Kung ito ay excessive, I don't think any company will do that dahil they will enter into the shoes of the one that...
Gano'ng katagal yung panahon para magbigay sila ng ban? Mula nung manalo sila sa bidding?
Before po ma-issue yung Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity. So that would be from the time that they are considered NMT, mga 90 days po yun.
Nasa TOR po yun, 90 days dapat pumasok yung ban.
Opo. Otherwise, yes, Your Honor.
Otherwise,
we will not give the licenses, Your Honor, and the frequencies.
Assuming that happens, will you give it to the second highest pointer or will you bid it out again?
Ano po, may process po sa second po.
Automatic na yan.
Yes, yes, Your Honor.
Wala nang question yan. Bibigyan nyo ng second highest.
Opo, yes, Your Honor.
At ganoon din, pag nag-fail pa rin yung second highest,
Susunod po, yes.
yung third highest pointer naman.
Opo. Kaya po, Your Honors, yung po kanilang participation security or bid security should be valid for 180 days. Para po yung kanilang mga bids ay valid habang tinatapos po yung proseso.
The bid security is what? That's not the bond.
That's not the bond, Your Honor. That's the bid security for joining in the bidding process.
But that's only how much? That's a million?
That's 700 million, Your Honor.
700 million?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yung bid documents is 1 million.
Yes, Your Honor.
700 million yung
yes, Your Honor.
bond nila.
Opo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Lil.
Senator, I actually have I would like to hear the feedback of the two major players also with the proceedings that we are having now. If you have any concerns or if you have any objections, because this is a public hearing, do we have a representative from Smart or Globe?
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chair. On the part of Globe, we do not oppose the entry of a third player or any other player for that matter. We believe that competition is healthy for the telecoms industry. And the bottom line here is that creativity and innovation will win the day for the telecoms companies. Hindi po kami magiging hadlang sa pagpasok ng Third Telco. Pangako po namin yan.
Maraming salamat. Smart, meron ba nandito?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Maraming salamat sa pag-imbita po nyo sa amin para makasama po kami dito sa public hearing po na ito. On the same, we would like to express the same, that Smart Communications does not oppose this process of selecting the next major player. We, in fact, maybe we just like to suggest that whatever incentives or whatever concessions or whatever will be given to the third major player will also be available not only to the two dominant players but also to the other telecom players. Let's not forget that there is a provincial association of public telephone operators, that there were at some point in time 28 years ago during the implementation of RA 7925. Let's not forget that there were 11 players that participated in that in the granting of service area scheme. And the result of that service area scheme was that from 11 players, competition came about, and well, 20 plus years after, you were now back to two major players, no? And I guess this was all a question also of how government probably came up with different policies, good or bad, that resulted in that situation. So it will probably be easy to just point the fingers at the private telephone companies. But then again, like any other heavy capital intensive industry, the telecommunications industry is a infrastructure challenged industry. So if we track the development of infrastructure, we will of course take note that the Philippines is the only telecom industry where the telcos are privately owned, whereas in ASEAN, majority of the telephone companies operating in ASEAN are all foreign owned.
Thank you, sir. Since both of you are very supportive, both Globe and Smart, would you also say, or would you perhaps commit that the new telcos will be able to share your cell towers? I mean, of course, for a given fee. I'm sure you have an arrangement between each other already, correct? Do you allow, let's say in your towers, Globe, would you allow Smart?
Madam Chair, we have some tower share arrangements with Smart.
And Smart,
For
you
limited
have the
deployment.
same with Globe? Okay, so we have the commitment, we heard the commitment of Attorney Cordova that he would, by the first quarter, bring out an MC that will ask the two major telco companies to accept open access. So will you do that even without this memorandum circular?
Madam Chair, on the part of Globe, actually we've started early this year when we publicly disclosed that we are disposing our towers to a third party for the purpose precisely of tower sharing.
Oh, so basta nagbabayad naman sila, kasi syempre kayo nagpatayo nun. So, basta nagbabayad, pwede naman silang gumamit itong cell towers para mas mabilis din yung signal nila, di ba? Makaabot din sa mas maraming lugar.
And that is correct, Your Honor. In fact, as mentioned by Senator Escudero, we're also supporting the policy of the ICT to promote the tower companies because we need really a faster rollout, a massive rollout of towers in order to catch up with other countries. Hindi nga lang po talaga dapat i-limit sa isa o dalawa ang magko-construct ng towers. And then, kasi po, we're creating a duopoly at the outset. Hindi nga...
Sir, para matulungan din namin kayo, no, at kung yung mga iba pang papasok, mahirap pa bang kumuha ng permit para magpatayo ng isang tower sa isang lugar? I mean, aside from like certain homeowners association, alam na natin yun, but local government itself, do you find it still difficult in certain areas?
Meron pa rin po, Madam Chair. And in fact, actually, we're thankful to the Senate for passing, for the legislature, for passing RA 11032, which is the Ease of Doing Business Act, particularly Section 15 thereof, which is focused on easing the pain of telecom companies in rolling out towers. And that is the streamlining of securing of permits and limiting the number of days to secure these permits from an unlimited number of days to 7 days, Your Honor.
So, bumilis pa.
So, relatively, Your Honor, and sana bibilis pa when the implementing rules and regulations of the ease of doing business
will be released. Yeah.
Implement.
Okay, I think Senator Escudero, any more questions or?
Wala pa bang yung technology na ganito kaliit yung kailangan mo para magkaroon ng cell site? No, I mean, you're headed in that direction, right?
Actually, we're headed in that direction. Mga microsites and...
The main problem, Madam Chair, for the information of the committee, as far as I know, kindly confirm, it takes about, what, anywhere between 12 to 18 months from the time you identify an area na dapat may tower kami dyan for you to actually roll it out? Given all the permits, yung pag-identify ng may-ari, bebenta ba o rerentahan, yung pag-construct, papayag ba yung subdivision, and there are some LGUs, Madam Chair, that actually don't allow it anymore. Actually don't like it. I can name 1 or 2 cities in Metro Manila that actually don't like additional towers anymore. And there's nothing the telcos can do about it. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Attorney May?
Madam Chair, actually I just would like to comment on the earlier suggestion of Senator Escudero, where he suggested that the LGU can actually put up the tower and make money out of that operating the tower. The sad reality is that LGUs actually now, it's easier for them to come up with an ordinance charging telecommunication companies prohibitive fees, regulatory, disguised as regulatory fees, to charge 200,000 pesos, 300,000 pesos for an annual fee for a telco to set up a tower in their area. So this is actually goes against the Supreme Court decision of ICC versus National Telecommunications Commission, whereby government entities in their exercise of regulatory function should only charge regulatory fees in reimbursement of its in function of their supervisory and regulatory performance. And I guess this goes also to the question of charging the spectrum fees. So I think, if at all, maybe we'd like to just suggest to Congress and to Senate to also take a look, while you will take a look at refarming spectrum fees, while you take a look at reallocating spectrum fees, maybe it's also high time that you look into the charging of these spectrum fees, no? Because this is actually a barrier to entry, even more so for a third, fourth, or fifth telecommunication company to come in. Thank you.
So, Attorney Ibay, do you mind giving us a copy later on of the local government units that are charging you that much, so that we can consult with them and ask them why is this so. Senator Escudero.
Just one last one I forgot earlier, Madam Chair. Under 7925, any telecom company should broaden the ownership of their company. Is that in your TOR, Chairman Cordova? That 30% within 5 years after they begin, they should publicly list.
Your Honor, I think it's stated in the franchises issued by Congress.
Yung mabibili nilang franchise.
Opo, yes, sir.
Nakalagay doon na pag telecom sila within 5 years, so at least they're on notice. Within 5 years, public ownership should not be below 30%.
Yes.
I think the company with the widest public ownership would be what? PLDT? Tama ba? Attorney Ibay? Diba? Ilang percent kayo? Well, you have a corporate structure that X owns Smart and so on. But you have the widest public ownership, right? Compared to the other telcos. As of now. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Attorney.
Senator Zubiri, do you have any questions? I think that we would like to hear also from Mr. Forbes, since you're here already, your position on this.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I want to be very, very quickly. I think we're observing the a spectrum of telecommunication changes as the country moves from the old laws that are digital. Remember the days when we had to dial up? Some of us remember that. To the new, where we carry computers around with us, the new analog. And it's a very important process, and I think it's good to improve the business investment climate as we go. Things like number portability, things like telecommuting, obviously refarming spectrum, and obviously the common tower policy we support, and more telcos as well. But I just would like to quickly note two other bills that are not the subject of discussion today, but are both been passed by the House and are now awaiting a plenary discussion here in the Senate. And I note the presence of the Majority Leader, and I'd like to appeal to him to prioritize the remaining 8 weeks, which is a very, very brief time before your recess in early February, to please pass the PSA amendments and also the open access. So thank you very much for asking AmJam. I think one of our members started telephony in the Philippines back in the 1920s.
Yes, so on the issue of, Madam Chair, may I respond?
Go ahead,
On the issue of the PSA, the Public Services Act, it's already in plenary. And if you notice, the chairperson will notice that it's always agendaed every day. It's agendaed every day. In other words, I prioritize it every day. Unfortunately, those who want to interpolate do not want to interpolate that day. So maybe AmCham can help me talk to those people. The chairperson will...
for the record, Majority Leader, the chairman has always implored you to put this in the schedule, right?
Yes, absolutely.
But we're just waiting for a few interpolators.
Very ready to defend. We'll ask the chair to whisper to Mr. Forbes who they are. Maybe you can reach out to them. That would be the best. But definitely on my part, as the MMDA of the Senate, meaning the traffic enforcer, we prioritize it to the request also of our chairperson. So later on the side, we can discuss, and maybe they can help us lobby with the legislators.
We'd be most happy to do that, Senator.
Very much, Mr. Forbes.
Thank you, Majority Leader. We are going to wrap up this hearing now on the Third Telco, but I think Secretary Rio, you want to add a few more things?
Yes, Your Honor. On the subject that baka lukuhin lang itong terms of reference nito, baka kung ano lang lalagay nila sa doon sa Form A, well, they can do that, Your Honor, but that will be at the expense of their corporate reputation. And we must remember na hindi lang ho Pilipino ito. Mag-i-invest pa na mas malaki dito will be the foreign partner. Do you think, Your Honor, the foreign partner will allow himself to be used by a small telco, Filipino telco, to ruin the reputation kung anong basta-basta lang ilalagay nila doon na hindi naman nila pala kaya? So that is our protection, Your Honor. All of them needs a foreign partner. And the foreign partner are very serious in coming in. We have attracted them already, Your Honor. And I don't think the foreign partner will have their company be used just to model these things.
Okay, thank you, sir. Senator Escudero has a point.
One last point, Madam Chair. This is the first time we're adopting this mode of awarding. Alam naman natin, matagal na nireklamo ni Pangulong Duterte yung lowest bidder rule, that it does not always get the best possible supplier or provider insofar as government is concerned. I'd like to commend, actually, Chair Cordoba, the NTC and DICT as well, for coming up with this unique, and as you said earlier, with the advice of the ITU, correct? Way of awarding things. Perhaps we can work on this for some other projects of government so that, again, at the end of the day, we can get the best and the brightest possible bid to supply whatever government needs and serve the best ends of our populace. Thank you, Madam Chair. And congratulations, Chairman Cordoba.
Chairman Cordoba, with the entry of the Third Telco and maybe a few others later on, masasabi ba ninyo na ang pagpasok nito, ang ginagawa ninyong mga probisyon ay magbibigay ng garantiya na mas gaganda ang serbisyo natin?
Madam Chair, thank you for the question. Alam po namin na ang chairman ng Public Service Committee ng Senate ay very particular po sa pagtulong sa mamamayan, pagbigay ng magandang serbisyo. So we give our commitment, Madam Chairman, that gagawin po namin lahat na ma-implement ito at to ensure po na magkaroon ng magandang competition sa marketplace para po bumagsak ang presyo ng serbisyo para sa mga mamamayan, lalo na po sa mahihirap, at magkakaroon po ng magandang serbisyo din para sa kanila.
Ayan ang maganda. Mabuti at pinaalala nyo. So ang pagpasok nitong Third Telco ay isang paraan para masigurado ang kompetisyon at mas bumaba ang ating babayaran para sa serbisyo. Pwede tayo makapamili, di ba? Parang pupunta tayo sa department store, pwede tayong pumili kung ano yung mas mura, pero de kalidad. Yun yung ating pakay dito, hindi po ba?
Yes, Your Honor. In fact, that's the only way, yan lang po ang paraan itong Third Telco ay makakuha ho ng mga subscribers that are now presently with Globe and Smart. Magandang serbisyo, mas magandang serbisyo, at mas mababang presyo po.
And I'd like to second what Senator Escudero pointed out. Thank you to both Secretary Rio and also Chairperson Cordoba. Sa tingin ko, nararamdaman ninyo talaga yung pangangailangan na ito. Kaya inaayos nyo ang inyong proseso. Nais ko lang ipaalala sa inyo, no? Dahil tatapusin na natin itong sa telco at tutungo tayo sa iba pang mga usapin. Kayo ay nanumpa dito sa pagdinig na ito. Kaya kayo ay maaaring balikan namin sa inyong mga pinangako. Nais nating magtagumpay kung sino man ang mananalo ng bid na ito sapagkat ang tagumpay ng kumpanya na yon, kasama na rin ang existing na dalawang telco, ay mararamdaman ng ating mga kababayan, di ba? So, nasabi po ninyo, Chairman Cordoba, na magkakaroon ng National Domestic Roaming MC by the NTC. Yan po ipinangako ninyo by early next year. Tapos yung Tower Regulation MC, providing for common use and same pricing principles and not limiting it to just one or two companies as opposed to one of the proposals of as a presidential advisor. Am I correct? And then number 3, an open access MC while waiting for the law to be passed in Congress. Yun po yung mga napangako ninyo kay Senator Escudero nung natanong kayo kanina. So, with that, I would like to wrap up on our discussion. Secretary Rio narrated in historical context the policy in the Third Telco, providing transparency on its selection, that as of October 19, 2018, there are 8 applicants, both national and international companies. Napag-usapan din natin dito na kailangan ang seguridad ng ating bansa ay pangunahin din na inyong titignan, na hindi basta-basta porket na merong namuhunang dayuhan ay mawawala na tayo ng otoridad na inspeksyonin na sila ay hindi hindi ba nagba-violate dun sa ating mga batas. Ang dalawang malalaking kumpanyang Smart at Globe ay hindi naman tutol dito. Sa katunayan, sila ay very supportive, and we'd like to thank both Smart and Globe also for their commitment to allow sharing on their cell towers. So with that, I would like to suspend this hearing, because for further evaluation, I'm sorry. Do you have something to add before I?
Yes, Madam Chair, if I may be allowed, just a short manifestation.
Yes, please.
Your Honor. It's regarding the presentation made by the DICT and the NTC earlier, saying that Now Telecom supposedly plans to stop the bidding. We'd just like to make it of record that Now Telecom has no intention of stopping the public bidding for the Third Telco. In fact, in our complaint before the Regional Trial Court, we never prayed that the court will stop the public bidding. And in fact, Now Telecom bought bidding documents because it plans to participate in the public bidding, which will culminate on November 7. In fact, Now Telecom expresses its support in this process of looking for a third telco. It even submitted a position paper highlighting that one of the criterion that should be used in determining the third player should be the number of hard to reach areas. Unfortunately, as we can see in the finalized version of the memorandum circular, this was not even considered by the NTC or by the oversight committee. Again, to reiterate, Now Telecom expresses its support to the President's project for a third player to come in, and as far as it is concerned, it plans to participate, and it is only challenging certain provisions in the memorandum circular, which is now pending before the Regional Trial Court.
You said that under oath. That was the clarification made by Now, that that's a welcome. They are not trying to stop the bidding. But Senator Escudero, you have a...
Why did you include a prayer for injunction and issuance of a TRO?
Your Honor, the injunction is only directed to certain provisions of the memorandum circular. And in fact, Your Honor, it's not because Now Telecom does not have the capacity to post the securities. In fact, what we prayed for in our complaint was we will consign the amount with the court, not with the NTC, precisely because the memorandum circular is not clear on what would be the process for forfeiting the securities. We don't know if we will be notified, and we don't know if we will be given an opportunity to explain ourselves. That's why we think that the court would be the proper venue, a proper and neutral venue for us to post the performance securities and other securities required by the NTC.
So if the case is not decided in your favor before November 7, where will you post the bond?
Well, if that's going to be, that's something that we will have to discuss with our client, Your Honor. But most likely, if there's no injunction that will be issued, or if we will not be allowed to post the bond, possibly we will have to post it either with the NTC or some other venue wherein that would be allowed under the rules, Your Honor.
But then again, if you don't follow the TOR and post it before the court via consignment, you run the risk of not being a compliant bidder, in which case it will be an additional cause of action if ever.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Secretary.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ria.
We'd just like to manifest that only now are questioning these provisions in our TOR. No other contestant or contender did so. And by having the performance or the participating band and performance band to the court changes totally the terms of reference. And therefore, that would cause a delay, Your Honor.
Okay. Pero walang minus point yun. Yung pag-question nila sa korte, walang minus point yun. Hindi, walang minus point sa algorithm nila. Wala, di ba?
Wala po, Your Honor.
Sa algorithm, wala. Meron lang silang babayarang fee, di ba? For having questioned it.
Pag nanalo po sila, tuloy-tuloy naman po yun.
Tuloy. Okay. So yun na lang po kasi suspended pa naman ito eh. And the reason why I'm just suspending this hearing is because we'd like to see the progress after November 7. In such time when the bid, I suppose, would have been awarded. Am I correct? Okay.
There will be a provisional NMP, Your Honor, after November 7, and then they have 90 days to submit all the other documentary requirements. So
90 days. So kung kunyari everything is complied with within 90 days, kailan tayo magkakaroon ng third telco?
November, January, February, March. Mga ano po, first quarter of next year. But actually, Your Honor, if they can submit it earlier, okay naman po yun.
Sabi niyo, they have 90 days, correct?
Yes.
90 days, correct?
December, January. Mga February po, Your Honors.
By February, meron na tayong bagong telco?
Ano po, kasi November, Your Honor, we would have the provisional NMP, new major player, based dun po sa bid nila.
Okay,
And then,
so if everything goes according to your forecast, your schedule, 90 days to submit all of the requirements, etc., when will they be operational? How soon?
we will give the licenses po by February of next year, Your Honor. Yun na po ang pinaka...
Ganun kabilis.
Opo.
The licenses will be given March. And they have a year to roll out. Di ba? Nakalagay sa TOR nyo, initial investment of anywhere between 40 to 150 billion. So after 1 year, doon pa lang siguro magkakasignal at pwede ka tumawag.
Yes, sir. On the first year of their commitment period, that is where they're going to roll out doon sa kanilang commitment, no? But in that rollout, maybe give or take mga 6 months or 9 months, they could have their first subscribers.
So within next year.
Yes,
within
sir.
next year. Okay, yun lang. Siyempre, dahil sa usaping ito, gusto malaman ng tao, sige, so nag-usap-usap ko yung tungkol sa Third Telco, kailan namin mararamdaman na meron ng pagpipilian. So, ang sinasabi ninyo, siguro sa susunod na taon, within next year meron na. Okay? So, yun lamang po. This hearing is suspended before we continue with the next batch of franchises. We would like to call for a break first so we can stretch our legs and walk around. Thank you.